welcome back. Thanks for bearing with us. If you ever had any doubts that this is live, yeah, like of course it is. My name is Audrey. We're halfway through round 2. I'm joined by Asphyxia and Marbles. How y'all doing? I think your audio is good now, right?
I'm hoping so.
Perfect. Yeah, that was on my side. We'll figure out what it is. But hey, let's just jump into some games. Again, let's jump into table 4. We got Paralu 9 versus Sauce. Sauce playing some Nearth Hub, and we're going to see again that ever-present Padma across the table. So, prepaid voice pad. I think this is a pretty interesting card. I think Shaper has a lot of ways, a lot of events to get some good value off of this. Do you think if you see prepaid, you're expecting the twinning? I don't know. Does one always come with the other?
I think
I didn't
so.
even consider the pairing.
Endurance is down here too, so we're going to see those good R&D runs. As much as, again, the credit 1 per turn off prepaid, it's actually not bad. It's kind of, if you squint, it kind of looks like a Rozeki that you have to do some work towards. But we'll see again if Palu, if they're going to charge any of these servers on the table, because these two came down right now and they don't have a lot of money just to be able to trash stuff. If that is, sometimes you just need to do with Maryland's or pad campaigns. Again, a lot of times money is super important.
Definitely going to be a hard decision if they do face a daily business show or something.
Yeah.
Just like, oh no, do I trash this and go to 0?
So that's a pad in server 3. Again, a lot of times runners won't trash that until after it's maybe res, because the res of it is technically credit negative. So the corporation actually has to spend credits and then still spend a turn not making money off of it. We're charging a spin doctor with 3 cards in archives. Again, if you want to hit central servers, a lot of times you want to get those cards back into the deck, let alone if you end up trashing server 2 and Nightmare gets it gets shuffled back. Cool. And we're off. Again, this is only a couple turns in. So this is turn 3. So we're going to see most of this game, which is a very good spot to jump back in. Oh, whoa, public trail again. We've seen that punishment as soon as turn 2. Oh no, 3 cards in hand is just too little. Again, that is the threat in the startup format that really wanted some strong tag punishment, and the line is strong tag punishment. I was just saying that we were going to see like a full game here, and then end the line out of nowhere will get you, and it'll get you good.
Sounds like we were there right at the end of the line, in fact.
You got to end on 4 cards. It's like, I mean, in a way, for startup, it's definitely like teaching people fundamentals, right? It's like, okay, well, this is a possibility at all times. So
yeah, and it's good. I think Corpse they really need that in this format, or they did need pre-rotation. I have no doubt it stings a bit worse when you see a no free lunch coming down in that meat damage hand. So like just one more click saves you from that. And again, you're expecting 2 to 3 no free lunch in just about every deck, but got greedy. Unfortunately, the punishment does connect there. So well played to both players.
Streamcast. Oh no,
I would call it a curse.
People.
I think we've seen some very exciting flatlines, and I think we've seen a lot of flatlines, right? Like I think half the games have been ending in that direction.
That's startup, baby.
Yeah, that's startup. All right, let's jump into another table. You want to do, I don't think we've seen table 8. I don't think we've seen either of these players.
Let's see. No, we haven't. I mean, 31 people in the bracket. Like there's going to be a lot of people to cover.
Cool. So here we are. It's Essa. We are 0 core damage in, but we have a Banhar on the table. It's currently challenging server 1, which is a nice place to be, as much as the Managarm there can do something. But 6 points already, and a seamless launch I think is going to give some agendas to fix beyond the side. Let's see what we're looking for. I think off-world office is kind of what you want here, and we're going to be not getting the counter. I think we get the counter after, right? Yeah, there we got the counter. So ability to recur card, very powerful against Essa, who's definitely going to be throwing your cards into the bin. Now, this is frightening, right? Like, whenever Essa's on game point, single sabotage is really scary. You know the finality, you know the Chastushkas are going to come. So, like, it's just the hardest place to play from behind into.
Yeah, and the Butcherless on HQ is just so scary. Like, at that point, you don't even res, right?
It's hard. It's like you need the money to tax it out, but I think you want to ice R&D or res R&D. There's the wave. So good to know that there's harmonics in this list. We'll see what they're going to pull from hand. It does take a non-agenda out of the deck, but Magnet is exactly what you want. So that's the reason why you don't want to res on HQ, if anything. Now that was a Banhar. So is the net damage worse than an Axis? 6 points.
Oof.
And a time bomb coming down. Oh, they tried to play 2 time bomb. Unfortunately, it's unique. So they just kind of like shuffled their second time bomb. I think they were very excited to play 2 time bombs, but unfortunately it is unique. So It's just a card lost from hand. I reckon you could take that back if you really wanted to.
I have very many times ignored the little diamond in the corner, saying that this card is unique and you cannot have two on the table at once, and done this exact same thing.
And on stream, oh god, why? It's okay.
Oh. Yeah. Sorry.
I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Like, that's one way to learn for sure. At least JNet has your back. But yeah, if they want to take that back, I reckon they can.
Yeah.
I'm going to say feel free to take it back.
This game. And it's good to see it happening on stream, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, if there's no information gained really there, so I don't mind if they take it back. I just reckon they should just click for credit. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm the same whenever I play in competitive. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to earn all my play mistakes and just like, you know, say.
Runner played to, yeah. They figured out, yeah. Okay, so for those who are a bit confused, Time Bomb is a unique card. You can always install a second unique card that you have an original copy of. It'll just trash the original copy. So it installed one Time Bomb, and then for the next click, it happened really quickly. The first just entered the heap. So it doesn't actually push you forward as much as it just gets cards out of your hand. But yeah, take it back for sure is called. Okay, cool. So they just have a one click left. They're just gonna, I don't know. They can take an extra click here if they want to, but it looks like it's off for fixed B. So this is scary. We haven't seen a single Spin Doctor so far. We see a Vladisibirsk. So actually this might be the sort of big unit list that was posted. I think it was the first time we saw Vladisibirsk in a PD deck. I think I saw. Maybe it isn't. But that Vitruvius counter is definitely going to help at instant speed. If there's an agenda in archives, even while ESA is running archives, you can pull it back to hand. So that's going to help a heck of a lot, as much as you can use it even to like threaten out like a second seamless if you need to score a 4-2 or a 5-3, mind you, in a remote server, even on advanced.
I think I haven't really seen precision design and how its ID ability works against ASA, like being able to pull things back from the archives.
Yeah.
And sure, it is like, you know, when you score agendas, but there's Elevagars in the deck. Obviously, two are already out of the deck, but. You know, like there's ways to get things out quicker, the biotic labor, etc. So like just having some level of extra protection against the sabotage play.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And to me, it feels like it falls into this sort of camp like Restoring Humanity, where you have to kind of think a bit more of when you're going to check archives, because you're totally right. Like if you don't check archives and they score out, maybe, you know, that's it. Maybe that they're going to redo or undo the damage that you've spent a lot of effort causing. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's pretty likely the magnet on HQ. I don't know if you want to overinstall the botulus dice. I feel like the magnet's going to be happy with that botulus regardless. So if you just keep the cards in HQ as well, maybe that 6 hand size also does help against sabotage if you can hold up more cards in hand.
I think every faction at the moment has got some really interesting counters to sabotage. I think S is a brilliantly designed ID because you can because there are so many different ways to counter 100%. It.
Yeah.
As long as you're thoughtful, there are things that you can do. It's not just a mill deck.
Now this is a really interesting juncture. So it's worth knowing Banhar is targeting HQ. So the first ice encountered, and encountered means that it's rezzed, is going to just not end the run here. It's going to do a single net damage. Now, this does move the botulus over, but this puts a fixed B very easily on 0 credits. So while the magnet's still going to be Banhard through, you're going to need more credits to eventually threaten the ice on HQ. So this is just sabotage 4. Now we have a click left to check archives. Now there is the Vitruvius counter, but deciding where to sabotage from, it looks like we're going to go for that half and half. 2 from archives, or sorry, 2 from HQ, 2 from R&D. Unfortunately, nothing hit there. Now, if I'm not mistaken, JNet does not shuffle archives. So we can tell that a Pulse and an On-Cell was discarded from HQ and Biotic and Regolith from the top of the deck. I'm only like 80% sure of that. Maybe they do, but generally they don't, at least when you're playing, not spectating.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen archives shuffled.
And for those at home, like shuffle archives. If the runner runs archives, especially if you're playing into sabotage, it's in your best interest to shuffle the face down cards so they don't know where you did what from. That's always worth keeping in mind. Raindrops for a single off of R&D again. You could give them a net damage for Banhar. It looks like we're going to do that instead of giving 1 credit to the corp. Again, when credits are low, credits are important. So we'll see if that hits a steel skin scarring. I think that's your best case here. Looks like it hits a botulus. We're in. Going to draw a card game 3. And Diesel to draw 3 more out of here. Card and remote server. And with seamless launch in hand, that actually could be a 4-2 agenda, as much as it's hard maybe for this runner to deal with Eli into Manic Arm.
I don't know if I agree with the play of like running with the Venka, knowing that it would trash the Botulus, right? Like they only had one card in hand, and like the wave was rezzed. It's like I think I value that Botulus way more. But being on stream is also like a little tilting, I'm sure. So
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Like maybe Banhart gets you there. Maybe you're expecting triple magnet. That's just 3 cards from the top of R&D. And mind you, Server 2 easily could be a Spin Doctor, but if it's not, that's a starting with a running hot. So that's another 2 sabotage. That's 5 sabotage this turn. And you love to play Essa when you can stack your sabotage, a lot of them in a single turn. So that's 5 unknown cards from the top of R&D. As much as there's a Vitruvius counter, that's an Echo. That's going to be 1 net damage. And then the wave is just a 2 credits. It doesn't end the run. So these single accesses are going to go through. It's really hard to stop a Banhart runner, as much as eventually they will run out of cards.
Yeah, just win.
Just win. Almost always the plan, yeah. Up of R&D.
I would be so tempted to run Archives first.
Nothing there. Still 4 clicks left. We're checking Archives. That is a Spin Doctor on the table. It's been there for so long. Sometimes you just want to go see what that is because it's a Maryland, probably rezzed, a Nico, definitely rezzed, but unfortunately that's going to be 2 points in there.
Oh, no.
Oh, good game. Fix could have pulled that back with the Vitruvius in hand. I don't know if that would have solved the issues, but in theory, Fix could have made the game a bit longer there. The Vitruvius counter can be used at instant speed. It is not a click, but that is going to be 8 points for Essa. Good game to both players.
Wow. Yeah, when you're in 6 agenda points as runner, it's just okay. Let's go. Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, it's really hard. And then like Essa can take the most aggressive lines because you just need 1 good sabotage. So you just sabotage on every single option you have, and yeah, it's hard to play from behind into Essa for sure. I think Fix B is realizing now. Oh no! Oh, I think they realized they had the Vitruvius counter there.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, that hurts for sure.
So this is a game where we've seen no breakers at all installed.
Yeah, I think
did we see
I think we saw Matryoshkas, but again, yeah, they did not hit the table besides that Botulus. All right.
Yeah, I always forget about the agenda counters, like atlases and stuff as well. Just
there's a lot to worry about when you're like, getting hammered by Banhart, let alone all the sabotage. So yeah, that's a really important one to keep in mind. And it's hard. Again, paid abilities that are relevant at every timing window can slip by you for sure. Do you want to jump into table 5 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. I think table 5 is just over. It looks like the king with Taddy as the Oracle has just taken it. So it's 7-2. That's a Padma that did not get sailing to speed. So I think there's only maybe 1 table left here, which is M31 versus Shao. It's Shaper versus HB. Let's dive into that one. It might be the end of the round here. Again, we're about to hit a break as well. Once this round is ended, we'll be 20 minutes. We'll be on a break. And then we'll be back for round 3 and round 4. So we'll see how this game is going. This is Thule Subsea. Again, core damage is going to matter. This is the Padma list. 4 points to 0. 1 ontological out means, again, actually 2 ontologicals out now. It means you're more likely to consider taking some amount of core damage. I think we saw Shao turn or game 1, right? Was this the faster
against the Ampere. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Against Hedonism bot who was running Ampere. Yeah, we definitely saw it around 1.
Now, if we look into the bin, we do see the Gaslight. That is an interesting, different inclusion than I think the list we might have talked about. So we'll see what changes there are here. But 21 credits, you definitely want to get 1 core damage across the table if you want to try and fast advance out those ontologicals. But with 2 out on the table, actually core damage might not be that valuable.
How did you put it before? So charmingly, put your stink on it.
Yeah. You gotta get your own stink on it. And I think Gaslight's good stink. I respect that stink.
It's a great card. I'm not sure what you'd be looking like. Maybe pulling out the biotic levers when you need them, but
I think you have a lot of flexibility, right? Like you can pull biotic, planogram for draw, Hansei for money, sprint for fixing. Like you have a fair few of toolbox operations, as much as most of them are just like generically good. Now Nuka is.
I'm just trying to think.
We have 11 cards in hand. What are we looking for here? Again, we have the endurance. We don't have the assumedly you're going to need at some point the killer, probably the echelon, and that will deal with the eventual bloops relatively well. But maybe we're looking for a conduit or a deep dive. Some multi-axis, I think, is what we want. There you go.
Asking you shall receive.
Yeah. You're holding like a third of your deck. You hope you found it at this point. But conduit comes down. This is
Yeah.
not a charge thing. As much as it's put counters on it, it is a virus counter card. So rigging up is just click compression, save 3 credits and an install for the same click. I kind of value that. Like as cool as Sure Gamble is, sometimes getting 3 and an install is equally as good.
This feels like a Wildcat Strike hand. As in, like, you've got 4 credits and 11 cards in your hand, and you're like, oh god, how do I install these cards?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you like that click compression. Yeah, 2K 2CP turbines, mind you, in the bin. I don't think we've seen that so far, but just valuing to probably rely on endurance. And I think that's
Or
reasonable.
that they've got a third in hand.
Maybe. I wonder if this is just like a really reasonable call that like the HB decks, they don't have a lot of ice that's over 3 strength. Like none of the code gates are over 3 strength, barring if they're playing Ravana. The sentries are bloop. That might matter. Maybe you just endurance that. But like the barriers, I guess, even if you hit a Brawn, that's still kind of difficult for Cleaver.
Brawn's very difficult for Cleaver, but you have got boat credits,
Exactly,
boat
yeah.
counters, and you've got that click that you can use for the third.
So I think, yeah.
I wonder if they.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was wondering if they got hit with damage, but it's probably just from that over discard, right?
Yeah, I think that was just
Yeah.
that turn, right?
Wow.
Also, on that note, speaking about potential damage, I don't know if they took any, but Echelon's also in the bin. So unless they're on doubles and maybe you find an Echelon early and you're not really interested to install it, maybe they're on, maybe they're relying on endurance to deal with bloops for the next whole rest of the game.
Maybe just a complete disrespect for harmonics.
Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah.
Now, Zhao did take time on that turn, and that's always really important to know. Maybe on stream you want to slow it down, but if the corporation's thinking for a fair bit, that kind of makes it obvious that this might not be the easiest turn. Again, you can kind of dig down into that and see as much from that as you want to, but I think that M has an interesting turn here. We're going to start with the Sure Gamble and a Diesel, getting that prepaid voice pad credits. 2 things in a remote server.
Gotta get him every time. Otherwise, like, what's the point?
Straight pinholing. Let's go. Now, you know HQ is only 1 credit. You can choose to access either of these cards in server 4. If it's a Hendrik, you're going to have to click left. If it's a Managarm or a Jupestad, you can trash that as much as the core damage. It might not matter too much, again, with 2 ontologicals out. That's generally the big punisher here. Again, they could be on tag punishment on terms of like end the line sort of stuff, but that is a Jupestad. We're not aware which card that is on JNet. We can't tell if that's the gold bordered one or the older version. I reckon you probably check the newer one, right?
Interesting. Maybe they were going for the upgrade and so they picked the first one.
Yeah, maybe if you're running it, you want to get the upgrade. But that's staying.
Just in case it's a Metagum or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a Hendrik.
So we're going to click for credit there. There's a Jupestad. So if that's Jupestad on top of an agenda, that can be scored out, or Biotic, or Elevagao. There's a lot of ways to deal core damage. It looks like it was the bottom card. So just an Elevagao here. You have the derez, you have the core damage hitting the endurance, and you can choose to derez the card. Deresing the Echo doesn't really tax at the Cleaver that much more. So it looks like we're going to ignore the text on Elevagao and just get an ice on top of R&D. We are now 3-4. A bit more work for both players, but
it's always nice when you have a Spin Doctor res on the table and you Scholar and Elevagao. It's like, oh, nice, extra draw.
Like realistically in startup, that's the only thing that happens. I don't feel like you're actually deresing stuff.
Don't forget ping.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
You can do there as a Regolith mining license, get 27 credits off it over many times.
Yeah.
The dream.
Oh my god.
That's a bloop.
It's happened to me. Like wasn't the person doing it, but I was the person on the other side of the table, and not a happy game for me.
3 subroutines on this. This is where you want to be. That uses 4 of the endurance counters. That's unsustainable as much as Padma is going to get 1 back on this. Magnet, mind you, the 3 strength code gate HB curse. That's 1 credit. And we're going to see 1 card here. That is Elevagao off the top. M can take the core damage if they want, but they're going to spend that extra 2 late tax, get that conduit spun up, and they are also sitting on game point. Now, Nightmare Archives haven't connected. And I do think there's a big chance the runner might be more willing to take on core damage, again, considering 2 ontologicals are out. So that's one of the most important cards. And we've actually not seen that many Nightmare Archives in runner score areas. And so many of the 2-late decks are, do the runner find the Nightmares early? Because early, they don't want to take the core damage. Late, they can. And that just adds so many more turns to the game when you're trying to keep slipping backwards from agendas.
I'm curious where their influence is going because they have a lot of like money options, and I'm wondering if it's for a reason. Like, do they have big deals? Do they have like like public trail end of the line combo somewhere just to like close it out. Like that core damage could end up being like more significant, other than just the ontologicals.
Oh yeah, they didn't pay. Excuse me.
Mm.
So yeah, they took core damage. I think snare. I think we might have seen that last time we saw this deck. I think that's like a sync of 4 influence potentially, two snares maybe.
That's got to be all the influence then, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially the biotic leaf. Oh, no, biotic leaf is an infection. I'm. Oh my goodness.
Now Zhao is drawing up again biotic labors. In terms of targets in the deck, we have 1 ontological, 1 luminal, 2 Vitruviuses. That is enough to close the game out. And Jenny, you mentioned big deal. 17 credits is exactly where you want to be for that. And I don't know, there's maybe a send a message in the list. But we're checking archives here. 6 face downs. I feel like this is how you find a Nightmare Archives. That's a wave.
Do we think they're just doing this for the endurance counter?
Maybe. There might be some respect here because we know running HQ is relatively easy. It's going to be 1 credit for Cleaver. So I feel like that might be the more impactful run, considering there was a draw, like mandatory draw 2. So I think there's a chance we're just flushing it out. And there's a send a message in there. That was the call. Then that was the archives respect. 8 points. Wow. As much as there's 2 Nightmare Archives in there, and very importantly, you choose the order of cards you access. You could still take in 2 core damage, but good game. Yeah, that 1 brick send a message. That if you can't score that out, that's something you just have to hide. Good game to both players.
I've definitely been that.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh no, where am I going? Like, this is unsustainable. I need to get rid of this.
Yeah, especially when you draw this late, your bloop is res. I don't know if there's a brawn, but good game to both players. Okay. We have 1 more table left again. We are going to have a break after this round. I think this table is still on. Yeah, I think we're back.
Just finished.
Oh, this one just finished too. Okay, so this table is just open, right? The fix B table? Yeah, I think so. Okay. I think that might be it. I think that's the end of the round.
Thanks.
Yeah, great round.
Very good
Good
round.
job, everyone.
So
yeah,
our results are going to come in. Again, this is just round 2. We're going to be throwing to about a 20-minute break. 1 second real quick.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Great to be
definitely.
here.
I've been muted the whole time now for a minute. Right. So
Wait, really?
yeah. I just said I'm super excited to be with y'all. We're going to throw to a break. We'll be back around 1:45, 1:46. Again, we're going to just throw some music on. I don't think I have text that says back in 20 minutes, so just say back after the break, and I'll update that in a bit once we get closer to the 15
Sound off in
minute mark.
chat if y'all are between rounds. Sound off in chat. Tell us how you're doing.
Yeah. Again, if you're playing, you can totally watch the stream. Just don't watch while you're playing. But if you finish your round early, it's a nice place to catch up. But
yeah, come say hi.
Come say hi for sure. That should be it. Our timers are now cleared and we're going to be throwing to a break. So thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back in about 25 minutes with the beginning of round 3. Again, this is 4 rounds and we'll have a top cut. It should be probably a top 3, top 4, depending on how clear the break is. But thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back in a bit. See you soon.
See you soon.
just about to start. This is our third round. Again, we have 4 rounds today and a top cut. If you're tuning in, my name is Andre. Welcome. This is the Metropole Grid, and we're doing our first online GNK. Again, we had 31 players show up today, which is a huge turnout. Thanks so much for everyone who wants to get involved. And I'm not alone today, which I'm super excited about. There's so many people helping out behind the scenes, but actually in front of the microphone too. I'm joined by Asphyxia and Marbles. How are y'all doing? It's been a fun day so far.
Been a great day so far.
Great matches.
Great matches so far. Yeah, that's for sure. So we're about to start round 3 real quick. Make sure if you're watching and you're part of the stream that you do refresh. We've had to do a repairing. So if you haven't refreshed, you're gonna, your pairings are gonna be a bit different than it looks like on table. So give me 1 second. I got to remind everyone. Pairings should be up. Okay, sorry about that. We should be in a good spot. So looking at standings, I think this is the beginning where people are going to consider like 2-for-1s and IDs and stuff like that, which is not something I thought we'd have in our casual startup GNK. But there's a lot of players here, and I reckon people want to get that, that first place spot, let alone the top cut. If we look at the standing, currently there are 4 players that are entirely undefeated. Cody, their starting encoder had the bye there, but we have some players. I think actually one of these players, it might be their first ever organized play, and currently they're standing undefeated in their first ever tournament, which is phenomenal.
Amazing.
So we're going to start seeing things like, if you're not familiar with this, intentional draws. You're going to start seeing things like 2-for-1s. Those are things that exist in organized play of Netrunner. While they might not be the most glamorous part of the game, in short, players can, with the approval of the judges, be able to basically come to agreements that either they will agree to both take 1 win and not play the game, or whoever wins the first game wins both games. And I need to give a huge shout out here too for Cror, and Cror has stepped up to do basically just impromptu judging. So Cror right now is handling a lot of the judge calls, let alone all the 2-for-1 and ID stuff. So huge shout outs, Cror. Absolutely appreciate that. Speaking of appreciate too, Maddie has been doing all our organizing for the event. She's just in the other room. She's knitting a sock and entering all these details. So far, 1 sock is done already today. So huge shout out for that. All right, tables should be up on the table, but do wait for the timer to start before you get into your games. Let me just make sure our lobbies are spinning up again. Sometimes this round where people are IDing and 2-for-1ing is when the tables take a bit longer to set up, let alone, people coming back from breaks and stuff like that is. Cool. Do y'all ID and 2-for-1? Are you into that sort of math? I don't have that math down at all. I don't know if y'all struggle with that.
To ask if you know how many points someone would need for it to make sense for them to do an ID at this point.
Yeah.
Do the top players, the people who are on 12 points who've won every game so far, should they do an ID if they want to be in the top cut?
I think it's relatively safe. I think for the top 3, I think Sauce is probably in the harder spot there because their strength of schedule is significantly worse than the other 3. And that is what tiebreakers come down to. So that number, if you're seeing SOS, that determines basically how difficult your road has been to date. So while Sauce has the same amount of wins as Encoder, in theory, the higher number is meant to be superior, as much as Cody got a bye. So I don't know how that affects strength of schedule. We'll find out.
And that's based on the results of the matches in this tournament. Right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's not seeded from anywhere else or anything.
It's not like ELO or anything. And that number also is going to change, right? If the people that Sauce has played in round 1 and 2 go on to win more games, that number is only going to go up because it kind of has this determination on how difficult your opponents were based off of their performance in exactly this tournament. So really,
I always get really intimidated when somebody comes up to me at a tournament and it's like, hey, do you want a 2-for-1 or ID or something like that? And I'm just like, now I have to make a hard decision, and neither decision is right. I'll either play the match and leave, or I'll 2-for-1 and regret it.
Yeah, let's say half of the time we don't regret it, but no, I totally fear you. I think it's a very difficult thing to sometimes.
It feels like it reminds me of like primary school or something, where somebody's trying to trade you something and you don't understand the value of it, and I'm like, I don't actually know where my strength of schedule is, and I don't know if this is beneficial for me, and I have to actually actively do math, and I'm like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, they're trying to convince you your Charizard is definitely worth 3 Machamps because that seems like a good conversion.
The only thing I know about strength of schedule is that if you've played anyone that day, you should be hoping that they do well.
Oh yeah.
So, the moment you see the back of someone, you're like, please do good, please do good. You're supporting everyone you've met that way, so it's kind of nice.
It's a really nice place for that. I think we're just about able to begin starting round 3 against people are at tables. I just want to make sure. I think we have one last 2-for-1 ID request. Once we deal with that, I think we should be able to move on. Again, we have 65 minutes in the round. Players are showing up with 2 decks, a runner and a corp deck. This is a startup tournament, mind you. So we're seeing a smaller part of the card pool. It's actually a very approachable part of the card pool. We're looking at system update, system gateway, and then of course just the entire Borealis cycle, which is just Parhelion and Midnight Sun. So just the newest null signal cards. And so far it's been a really exciting day with a lot of very exciting games.
Every time I hear the word Borealis, I'm like, at this time of year.
Yeah, localized, yeah.
Yeah, localized entirely in your kitchen. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I think
the memeing never stops. I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. I think we're just about to start the round. I just want to get confirmation that we're good
Yeah.
on the organizing side. 1 second. And we're off. Timer has started. Please begin your rounds. What table we're getting to?
Do we want to just go to table 1 and see what the top players are doing?
Cool. There's a chance they won't be playing, but if that's the case, we'll move around. But yeah, let's jump to table 1 and at least start to see there. I think we're playing. Nice.
Oh.
All right, so Sauce on the bottom, 49. We're playing a 45-17 on this NBN identity. Again, the first time a new server is created, you draw a card. Now, new server, that could be a card in a server. It also could just be ice on a server with nothing in it. You can do that in Netrunner as much as you generally see the former more than the latter. And we've seen NEH decks attacking in wild angles. We've seen like very early public trails into end of the lines. We've seen Retributions turn 1. We've seen some really flashy stuff for a deck that actually draws a lot of their potential combo pieces. On the other side, it's Padma, and Padma is the most well-represented runner. And maybe this is just because we've seen so much of it. I think we've seen more Padma losses on maybe an equal amount of losses than wins, but they're always like really flashy and interesting losses, right?
Yeah. The utility of being able to generate power counters is pretty wild. There are options like flux capacitor, and I'm gonna keep shouting out that card.
But, one day we'll see it.
But yeah they and stone ship and stuff like that. But just having it as a part of your ID means you're ready to go right away and build those power counters early.
Looks like we're slamming there into R&D again with the conduit down. You get some pressure. That's also to charge the nuke, which is a nice spot to be in. But Tsarevna, that's gonna fire. That's a tag. It's going to be 2 net damage, and you can draw 2 more. So while Sauce doesn't have a lot of credits, mind you, that pad campaign seems super important here. That's going to hit maybe some key pieces. It looks like Sure Gamble and K2CP. One of those seems a bit better on this board state than the other, but that's a lot of cards in hand. And now it's kind of hard to just tank through the Tsarevna over and over again. That's a taxing piece of ice with 3 subroutines, even for an endurance.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm in love with the pay the runner part of this card, but other than that, it's quite strong.
Yeah, that's a good thing though. You don't have breakers, you don't have to, but yeah, it's sometimes it's the right thing to do, as hard as it is to make that decision.
Yeah, with the that NBN card that came out where you also like take credits, but then you have the option to pay the runner. I'm wondering, like, I'm just sitting here speculating about the future, like where we're going and what this means for NBN, and like if there's going to be more of this kind of pay the runner.
Panic.
I hear something like that. Yeah, I think there's so many cards that like will make a bit more sense when there is a bit more support for that sort of thing. Okay, Nuka, draw 3 again. If you want to just send it R&D, otherwise if you use the Nuka, she is gone. But a Diesel maybe gets you a bit closer. We want to see that rigging up into the endurance, so we're not paying 8 out of pocket as much as telework is going to get you 3 a turn. And 2 cards on the table. Mind you, Server 2 is iced up. I don't know if there's that many unadvanced threats you're really worried about. I don't think we've seen a single Drago today, as much as he isn't banned in this format. But it looks like a Gaslight. We can go get whatever we want in terms of operations. I don't know if it's just going to be money. Public Trail here doesn't make sense because there wasn't really a run, as much as you might like to have that in your back pocket.
One of the things you can do with Gaslight on this board state is you can just get something like End of the Line, and then you are saying to the runner, don't make runs. Like, don't make runs unless you can afford to get past possibly 2 public trails. And that can give you that scoring window that you need.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think like we are going to see, we have been seeing, mind you, the no free lunch is like, the easiest way to save 8 credits on a public trail. Like that sounds ridiculous. It because it largely is. So again, Melly's going to have to find that. And they've had good enough card draw. But you're right. What did they pull? They pulled the end of the line. Wow. They're
They
just
pulled the
saying,
line.
yeah, face check
They
into a
pulled it.
Serevna. Yeah. And then you're going to have that threat coming at you. So we'll see how easily Sauce can kind of encourage some runs here. Undoing a click, mind you. They're going to go for the card draw first. You generally want to get that card draw, get the options before you commit, plan your turn before you build your turn. So you like to see that reroute. And
I have thoughts about Maryland campaign in NEH. I think it's just so much value.
It's good.
Like, it costs 2 to res. You get the 2 back immediately. 3 to trash. You get the card draw. It goes back into R&D. There's so much value in that single card, and you can bring 3. So,
I feel
especially
like
with the extra influence in NEH, it's all gas.
Maryland has been around in standard, let alone startup, for such a long time that even playing into this thing for years, people still mess up the fact that it breaks R&D lock 4 turns in, right? Like, it's actually quite a valuable part of this card as well. Spin Doctor, mind you, just got shuffled there, hid an unknown face down and another Spin Doctor. And there, Melly has interacted this turn, but that's exactly what we thought was going to happen. The no free lunch makes that public trail just 4 credits for a very, very simple trade. So we'll see if Sauce just has to tempo out that pay 4 just to make sure that no free lunch goes down, because the threat is not really there unless we can connect with an Amaze Amusements or kind of overwhelmed with tags, which it's harder in startup format without things like hard-hitting news, stuff like that. Server 2. Something in it, a lot of options, mind you, in hand. We haven't seen a daily business show just yet, but we also don't know what server 5 is. We've seen a lot of NEHs just like put agendas on the table, right? Like, not even iced up, because again, so far, Melly hasn't checked anything on the table, I don't think. So you might feel pretty confident about that.
I don't know though. It's a dangerous game to play, just leaving things unres. But at the same time, if you spend all your clicks like running all that econ, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the right decision is really.
Oh, it's an Orca!
An Orca?
Oh my goodness.
For 7
almost
credits.
Sold as well.
This thing is going to end up charging once it breaks, and it actually is one of the best breakers in the format to deal with in Smiling Tsarevna. You get through it for just 2 credits. I think that's really quite good, as much as you paid 7 up front. But now, the sentries are to some extent a liability. We'll see how many of those there actually are, because that allows you to charge up your Nuka, your Wake Compliance, of course, your Endurance down the line. Daily Business Show, getting rezzed. That was what was in Server 5, and Gaslight, we're going to go find another operation. Public Trail requires a successful run, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we're entirely safe on this turn. In chat's asking about what realistic mode is. It's an April Fool's joke. It's pretty funny, I'll be honest. It's just kind of hard to look at for a while, as by design it's meant to be. Server 2. We got something iced up. What ice do you think is on the remote server? What are you expecting here? We've seen 1 Funhouse, 1 Serevna so far.
It's a ping. It's 100% just a
Yeah,
ping.
I think it's a ping team. I think it's really interesting that we've seen a lot of tag-based corps today, but we've not seen a single Drago yet.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And like, it's still, I think Drago is one of the easier ways to deal with no free lunch. Maybe that's a bit hard, but like, it's a card that even after you clear no free lunch, they have to deal with. And that maybe is what you want to get them to, the situation where then still public trail from that point on is frightening. But yeah, we haven't seen a single Drago. Second telework. Melly hasn't found that boat yet, but Dirty Laundry just on pad campaign. I wonder if that's going to come down with 12 credits. Might just be the 3 credit run that you're okay with here. But now this is the first time we've made a successful run in a minute. So while 14 credits is a lot, Sauce can always trade 4 for a no free lunch. And there's only a limited amount of no free lunches, and we still have some recursion in the corp deck.
It definitely buys them some flexibility, but they're well above the credit threshold for a public trail. Maybe not 2, but you know. They've got some flexibility now, so they can kind of just hit wherever they want and, you know, play good fundamentals like not run last click and, you know, clear tags as they appear, those sorts of things. So
you could force a tag with if you had 3 public trail in hand, but I don't think you'd want to, because then your entire turn would be gone and they'd just clear it and start the next turn.
It's like, wow, you could convince yourself there's board states where you'd rather pay 8 than clear your no free lunch, especially if you're a shaper thing and, you know, you can't You're like, you have enough money to deal with it. Speaking about enough money, endurance comes down, melee down to 6 credits. So if there's a ping here, like that's the point where things get a bit annoying. I still think we have click lefts to hit the teleworks, but this could be a fun house, and that's kind of hard to deal with, as much as I'd love to see more anvils today and just about any identity that is in Wayland. Big toll
Oh,
booth. That's going to be an endurance for sure if you want to get through it, get your counter back, but that's 3 credits. This is genuinely taxing as much as it is a lot of money. Beal, first agenda in a score area. That's just a 3-2. That Sauce might have been happy scoring out, and now we're sending in R&D. This is one of the downsides potentially to Funhouse on the outermost, is that you can just bounce into this. Run to get a charge either on your endurance or your Nuka, and sometimes that's not the best, but it's always an option you have when the outermost ice doesn't require you to actually do anything.
I definitely had to bounce off a white space before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get the counters up.
I think we might see a public trail here, right?
I think we might.
I think
Like,
it trades for the no free lunch, which, as much as that doesn't seem like a great trade, they have to give it, or they risk not so much an end of the line because they do have 4 cards in hand, but like a retribution. Sinking an Orca, that would feel bad. Sinking an endurance is probably a bit more impactful. But this is the window that we haven't seen for a couple turns here. First click, though, is a new remote server for a card draw. Now, Daily Business Show's been on the table, but this pad campaign has been here since turn 1. It is turn 7. So this card has generated 4 credits so far, 5 credits so far. And if Melly can't have the time to deal with it, which sometimes you don't, like you're going to get a ridiculous amount of value off this thing. Server 7 or probably is what we're going to pinhole threading in. Allows you not to steal, but you can know what it is, so you can know if you need to spend 3 credits sailing through that toll. Whoa!
ooh,
Oh no.
Snare behind a toll booth. Maximum respect play there, thinking they would definitely want to find it out. And unfortunately, pinhole threading is the most card disadvantageous way to see that. So that's just a snare. No idea what server 8 is, but there's a tag. Credits are not great. So here you can clear a tag manually, maybe go back up to some amount, but again, there wasn't a public trail last turn. I don't know if there's going to be one this turn, but this is an even better time to land one.
absolutely. We know they've got an end of the line in hand, but the runner is on 4 cards, so
I'm not worried about this credit count. Like, I'd be tempted to just float the tag if they were on in the 8 credits. It's like, I don't know. It depends on the cards in hand, of course, but like, unless they're in a very comfortable position credit wise, like I'm not intimidated by a single public trail, I think.
Yeah, that's what is like really important. Like retribution is the punishment, but with snares, again, that's another way to give tags, but maybe we just care about cards in hand. So maybe all we have is end of line. And it's worth noting, end of line does 4 meat damage if the runner's tagged, but it clears the tag. So single public trail doesn't give you enough to do more than 4 damage. So as long as we keep cards up, but install advance behind toll booth. The question is this a Scion? Or is this just a big old orbital superiority? Maybe that's your line of play, where you score this out with a public trail to maybe, again, do 4 meat damage.
Is this the deck that has the superiority in it?
I don't know.
I know we saw it on stream earlier.
Yeah, I think we did.
Which NEH that was.
Into the
Was
depths.
that the R plus?
We're sending HQ. I think it was an R plus, yeah.
Mm-mm.
So this gives you good value whether you want to find a breaker or whether you want to just get the 4 credits. And finding the 1 card in HQ, I think we were aware of. So you know the end of line is there.
Remember when you could trash the kill you operation from hand?
Yeah.
Just pay 1. Just pay 1.
It's wild that like maybe starter players can come to standard and think like, wait, I can trash the kill operation. Oh, that actually seems reasonable. But I'm not saying end of line isn't. I do think they're both very interestingly balanced cards. But yeah,
we're talking about boom, of course.
Exactly.
In standard, 7 meat damage. 1 trash cost.
Now, server 7 double advanced hasn't been run yet. So now it's up to Sauce to have it here. If a public trail does connect, Melly has 2 ways out, either pay 8, which is a lot, or just a single no free lunch, which is less than a lot, but an important piece in this game for sure. But Sauce is thinking here, this is right before, I think they're considering whether they want to spin Doctor largely before the end of turn, so that they can have a chance of mandatory drawing into it. Also, we don't know what server 2 is. This has just been sitting there for a while. Maybe it is like a Sands and City grid waiting for a better day.
Yeah, I have no idea what this could be. I think 7/7. There's a chance it could be the Vladislavsk grid. Oh no, there it
They're
is.
going for the
Oh, it's
kill. They're going for the
Reaper.
kill.
How do we get a kill here? This is 2 net damage. Server 7 could be a clearinghouse for 2 more. I don't think you have enough to like public trail. We have 3 cards in hand. Advance. That is a double Drago. Whoa. Wow. That means that they can clear this tag here with the no free lunch. They get another tag, and that's an end of line kill. We haven't seen this play pattern in startup at all. I don't even think I've seen this in standard. That is a play pattern. Drago for the second tag. What a game. Wow.
Absolutely galaxy brain.
Really well played.
So what you're going to see at the top tables, right? That's amazing.
Such a cool line there. Again, this card is banned in standard, not in startup. Forgot Drago isn't banned, but that's like a really difficult punishment to see coming. Like you're right, Drago can give you 2 tags, but then they would need double end of line in hand. But we knew they had 1, but they actually couldn't even afford it to play 2. Oh no, they could because they couldn't even have afforded to play 2. Oh, I guess they could have because they played the what's it called, the Reaper function. But that is what it was. The answer. What's in server 2? Sometimes it's a Reaper function. That's pretty wild.
What's wild is that they had the pinhole threading. They used it like last turn to hit the SNAS.
Yeah.
Right? Or a few turns ago. Yeah.
And they could have.
It's like they had options.
They could have gone into that server. They had like it was a toll booth and they had enough counters on both. But that snare scared them off doing it again. And I think that's top quality Netrunner.
Yeah, it's terrifying when you know your opponent can get into it. Are they worried about that checklist? Are they worried about Urtica, right? Like obviously they're trying to place some amount of traps and that clearly colors the water. Speaking about maybe some water, blood water, restoring humanity, we're looking at 44 cards here. And this ability, we haven't seen, I think, restoring humanity a lot on stream so far, but it's relatively popular in this event. And this ability is just an economic ability, which is something that GNK decks, I think, kind of like. I don't think the GNK economy is particularly strong. I think Archives Ice, you have to respect Pathonymous. You have to respect Nanocivic Grid. Mind you, also not banned in startup. It makes face down ice and archives quite powerful. And just triple ice.
Is it important to talk about the 40 card minimum, sorry, for restoring humanity?
So 18 to 19. Serevna, turn 1. Oh, do you know what's really ugly right now is that the subtype text on Sable doesn't show where the mark is. It covers the mark. That's really ugly. But
HQ.
I think it's HQ. Yeah. So
we will get it in chat at the start of every round.
Yeah, we got to pay attention to that. But a very aggressive opening. We also see a bit about the Breaker Suite. We lost a Reprise to net damage and a Matryoshka. So this list could be on 6 Matryoshkas only. Maybe that's the only breakers they have access to, which means we've already lost 1. I don't know if Restoring Humanity is going to force you to break a lot of ice in a single turn, but that's definitely a piece you want to get down sooner than later. Can I undo that credit? Yeah, totally.
I love Reprise. It is my favorite card of Borealis.
It's really good. It's like the sort of card that you're going to have like memories about either on both sides of the table. Like one of the most powerful effects that like nobody sees coming, but has the absolute ability to entirely reshape just about any game it shows up in.
It's such a gut punch when it happens to you. Like you lose an agenda and you lose something important off the board in the same turn and the runner gets a run.
Yeah, for those old Leland players.
Win more.
Yeah. Win more is exactly it. Or play control, right? Like smash R&D for multi-axis and then just upset their scoring pattern in the remote. I think this is a really good start for RH, right? Spin Doctor on the table to get archives credits. They have the mark as well. Sorry, the upgrade, the Nanocivic on archives. It's worth knowing that mark here is HQ. And it's, again, I think Serevna is quite good in a format that doesn't break sentries too well.
Going for it.
Okay, so Pathonymous
is credit count.
What's Pathonymous to res? 3 or 4? I think it's 3. We might find out soon. There you go. It's 3. So that's just 3 net damage. Again, that takes 3 cards out of the hand. If there was slightly more money on Melee's side, there's a chance Nanocivic does lethal damage with a piece of ice. Now, what's really important here, there it is, the Nanocivic, so that could have been rezzed. If there was just 2 more credits, maybe Sauce wouldn't have made that run, but that would have been 6 damage on a run. But I do like the respect here that Sauce is forcing archives to be flipped up because both of these cards care about face down cards. If there are no face down ice, Nana Civic does nothing. So just flipping archives is incredibly important, as much as that has just entirely been undone.
I love the incredibly risky play. Like, I want it to pay off. I love watching Grim play because it is all of this. It's all just going like running at the surface.
And we're seeing it again, dirty laundry into ice. Again, that I don't know if you're expecting that many end the runs from GNK, but the half run is going to deny 5 credits, dropping Sauce down to 1. So you don't often see that dirty laundry with, no breakers, but sometimes you just need to force the corporation to have it. And if it just did net damage, I think you're okay with that. But now Melly is going to be pushing it to remote server. The name of the game here is, I never remember the difference between Regenesis and Mitosis. I'm thinking Regenesis, right?
Yeah, Regenesis is definitely the name of the game here.
Do you want to describe what that is, Marbles? Regenesis?
Sure. It's a 3-1 agenda, which says on it that when you score it, you may also add a face-down agenda in archives to your score area. Importantly, you do not score that agenda. If it's something like a sender message, you won't get the extra effect of being able to freely resin ice, but you will get the points from it.
That's huge. Making a 3-1 into like a 3-4.
Yeah, exactly.
And that could be alive as soon as this turn. So maybe Sauce can contest server 2. If you lose a Regenesis, so be it. But sometimes the play pattern is just run archives and make sure archives is flipped. So if the Regenesis is just a 3-1, it's just a 3-1. And we're seeing cards like Half Run, right? Like these cards allow you to, while people are contesting the remote server, to get cards into archives, which is the most important thing sometimes with Regenesis. So it's kind of hard to contest everything.
I'm still reeling at Marvel's perfect explanation of a very complicated card off the top of their head.
Very
I'm
good.
just like,
I don't even know what the name of the card
wow.
is. Yeah.
Geek points earned, I feel.
Oh, wow.
Rajan up here. Throwing out a Pan Weave again. That's some cybernetics. You probably expect that. I don't know if that means we're going to see Tremolo, but Spin Doctor on the top of the turn to get Nana Civic and Hedge Fund back in. I wonder why that is. It looks like it's not just Snap Regenesis for 4 points. So maybe we have an upgrade brewing. Maybe we want to just get that Nana Civic grid back because it's the most important thing to our Protect Archive strategy.
I think that's probably the decision, the thought process. Just as many Nana Civics as you need.
Yeah.
Archives?
I think it's an underplayed card in startup, I think.
Nana Civic?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it might be. I think it's tricky to set up, and RH does it, but it's also like one of the few ways to like dunk on an endurance, but you need to like do on sell 1.0, I think is your only option with it, but like it feels good when it lands.
I think there's like maybe some feelings that playing ban cards in standard, playing them in startup decks are like, it's cheap or something, like playing an Archive Memories or playing like a Drago is just like,
I think it's happening. Oh, just longevity.
Oh.
So this is super important, and I think you see Sans and City Grid in a lot of Restoring Humanity decks because additionally, the text in Regenesis mentions that it can't fire on a turn where a card has entered archives, so you can't like Biotic Labor to score out or Trick of Light to score out a 3-1 from hand, and Sans City Grid is one of the few fast advanced methods that you can reasonably score out Regenesis from hand while still getting the text. I think this is what you expect in the remote server. So Endurance coming down, mind you, 5 influence here from Sable. Mark is on R&D. I wonder if we're going to pull down the Sans and City Grid this turn. We don't have the credits. It looks like we're going to go get our info bounty and our click back by running our mark.
I'm glad that we can at least see the mark on the info bounty, if not on Sable.
Oh, snare off the top. Paying 4. Get that tag. You lost a Chesva, Career Fair, and the second Endurance. Okay. I don't know if you can afford to install 2 of them that easily in Criminal, but it's good to find that snare before it's going to flatline you. But we got to click back to clear the tag. I think Verbal is a cool card too. I think Criminal is lacking card draw. And this thing, whenever it comes down, it does a bit better than I think it's going to, as much as you need to get it early. I don't mind this card at all. I think it's quite good.
I hate paying to install it without Career Fair.
Yes.
But every time I have this out, especially against GNK, I just feel so much safer, honestly.
Yeah, I think Earthrise is still probably worth playing, but Hansei Review, double Ice Archives, there's now 2 face downs in there. If there is a Send a Message in hand and a Regenesis, or sorry, send a message in archives and a Regenesis in hand, we can be on 6 points next turn. And I don't know if these lists are also playing the 2-1
hybrid
release.
Hybrid release. There we go. We got that.
Yeah.
Same brain cells.
Dirty laundry.
It would.
HQ mark, mind you, some part of this is going to fire. We can't endurance through all of it. You could consider tanking the damage, but I like this pressure here on HQ because you're assuming they probably have something in hand to fast events out. So you just want to fire it. But it looks like we're going to be able to draw 2 cards. That's probably a difficult one to allow fire if you're contesting HQ, because now they can hide the agendas by drawing hopefully non-agendas. But a send a message is going to pay you out.
Oof.
On the remote server.
Oh no.
That's a Vampire Nasa. The biggest, not the biggest, but actually relatively taxing code gate in the format, especially to endurance. I think Toll Booth probably just has a slightly beat.
Squid saxophone. Right?
Sorry, what was that?
Squid saxophone. It's a
yeah, I've never seen it like
Squid
that.
with the saxophone. Yeah. It's playing Careless Whisper in my mind.
I had to draw this the other day for a proxy for a friend, and I made such a mess of it.
Let's
Just-
go.
Were they able to tell what it was?
Just about. Like, I mean, I'd written the name on the card.
Oh, that
but I
helps.
think that was all that was doing it for them.
We got to
I
know if we
remember
lunch
drawing
here.
a silly truck for Melange mining back in the day. Silly truck. It's recognizable. Sorry, there's a game going on.
No, it's all good. We got an Earthrise.
So I think-
That's so much card draw on top of the verbal. And the no free lunch is probably just going to be value, click for 3, but install advanced events for
There
Genesis. There it is. And there's a blood in the water that was in archives. Again, you don't care about that X. You're just getting 2 points. So we are technically on game point, but you're assuming most Jinteki decks run only longevity as their honest 3-2. So unless you can like really beef it up and then like lose all the cards in hand, which is kind of difficult with Earthrise and verbal, they're going to have to score out probably. Our Genesis would be lucky if it fires, but maybe 2 more agendas.
Do you think that changes a bit though with the Sansan in your deck? Do you think maybe you do play? Actually, wait, it's Project Yu-Gi-Oh! It's rotated, hasn't it? Out of startup.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I think you're right.
Said, yeah, there isn't even that option as another 3-team.
Yeah, that was an Ashes card, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was an Ashes
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, I think you're totally right.
One that no one ever put an extra counter on. I was always trying to look for a way to make that extra counter matter, but
Yeah, the card has text on it, I think. But
it does technically have text on it.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
3 clicks left. 4 credits. Sauce might understand how important the Sansan is, but there's a face down still in archives. The question is, was the Regenesis just top decked? Or was it brewing for a while? Because that can maybe change. Maybe there is something else in archives. And mind you, Restoring Humanity has been getting basically a free credit every single turn. It is just that difficult to check a Pathinimus, especially when your breaker suite is like Matryoshka. Like you don't deal with it that well. Like there's a lot of installs to get to just breaking 2 ice on archives. Tsarevna, straight fire, drawing 2 cards is super risky as much as there might be more agendas in hand, but you're hitting a Spin Doctor here. An even more powerful card in Restoring Humanity. But we're going to let that ride. Gain 5 credits. Boat is able to break a single piece of ice. How bad is it if you're at the Vampire Nasa fire? It did not dawn on me that Vampire Nasa was meant to be a symmetrical card, right? Like it does to you what it gains for itself.
That's such a good point. Like a vampire stealing your life force. from you.
Exactly.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. I always start as like, okay, well it's a 7 cost card that goes that, you know, if it fires on face check, then I get the 2 credits back. So it's like a 5 credit res, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually makes way more sense. I just started
I
as
mean-
like 4 subs. That's great.
That's good enough. It is definitely
Thumbs
good
up,
enough.
thumbs
For
up,
strength,
thumbs
yeah,
up.
I'm in. Matryoshka coming down. That is our second one we've seen so far. Actually, third one, mind you. One has hit the heap. Feels like a couple turns ago. So in terms of limited breaking, we can break maybe 3 ice a turn very generously with both more dolls and the endurance. Again, in this format, there is no boomerang, but Inside Job is a card that criminals might play. And I honestly don't know if this deck is going to be on 2 endurance and a deep dive. So you might have to win off of like good singles. Now,
I'm
Melly.
sitting here thinking, what is the likelihood of a backstitching?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Not 0. I think backstitching like is not a card people are excited about, but it is a card that actually gives you that sort of ability to deal with. I don't know if you need to worry about it with endurance, but like the sort of, you know, existential half run Stavka combo problem, like it helps with that.
Yeah, that's what Grim needs. It's like, give me boomerang, but bad, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes
Though I
better,
suppose,
but
I suppose it's one like Logic Bomb or something.
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah.
An inside job that you don't need to hold in your hand.
It's cute. Yeah, it's cuter than
That
I
is a
think.
good way of putting it, actually. You don't have to hold it in your hand. That is a big upside.
Speaking of holding in hand, 8 cards here for the corporation. And this is, I like
Oh,
this with a
no.
lot of options. You really want to think this through because, you know, you can imagine the different branching turn possibilities. You definitely have a lot of them. I'm going to start by drawing a 9th card. We do know there's a spin doctor in hand. So like, even if you're
Yeah.
really flooded, it's going to be fine. Like we definitely can fix this, or not so much flooded as much as maybe things look ugly.
That's what's so powerful about this, what is it? Regenesis, is that if you do have a spin doctor, you know, you can kind of just hide things in archives and then bring them back if they're ever, you know, under attack. So, you know, I think the obviously this late in the game, not a huge factor, but it's just like this deck type and hiding things in archives and keeping them safe with that nanocivic and, you know, all that.
I think that's exactly what you're seeing here, right? That's probably a spin doctor in server 2 and then nanocivic and the agenda and archive. So the only server I think that's really weak to pressure is if you smash HQ with like a legwork, you have a big chance of maybe finding the Regenesis, but like you need to find it. Otherwise, if a Regenesis goes through, there's very, very likely that's going to be the last turn of the game. So Sauce here, again, Earthrise and Verbal. We're also holding 9 cards in hand. Probably going to think it through. 3 more clicks to figure this one out. But I don't know if Matryoshka is going to get you there. You just don't have enough credits. HQ is the mark for Info Bounty. Endurance will, always you can run through Vampire Nasa. Like maybe you can just trash Sansa. I think that would probably be pretty reasonable as much as the credits might not be there.
I think that's a nanocivic in server 2. I think they've got one on archives and one on server 2.
It's a grid.
True.
I don't think you can have both installed, right?
Oh yeah, they're regions. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's
region. No, apologies.
Oh, Cror's calling out a chat. Like there's a small chance if that is a spin doctor and then you overinstall it, you just have to crack it before end of turn. Oh no, actually spin doctor removes from game. You actually can overinstall the spin doctor. You'll be okay. Twinning. Pinhole. Both getting trashed to damage here. We're just firing all. So that's 2 more card draw, which again, if they're just looking for that final agenda, this can be scary. The Serevna has been incredibly important as much as it has fired 4 times. Those are good subroutines. We're going to access 1 here. Again, this is the mark. We did Carpe Diem as well. So we got paid out before the run was made. And that's an Anoetic. Cool to see that. Again, sometimes just getting your cards into the archives at the right time is the most important thing for this deck. But I wasn't expecting to see that.
I mean, it's a really good card, Anoetic. Like, even if it's not like, you know, end of run is not your game plan as Jinteki, it's still just such a, it's like a Managam out of HP or something. It's a good way to just protect the, you know, the Sansan in this situation, or just, it's just nice to have just some like delay.
Yeah.
Like, sure, they could just keep running, you know, but especially with Serevna drawing them on cards as well, it's like I can see the value of having a Anoetic Void.
This might be it. Last click. Just get a note for your lunchtime. We're taking the 8 credits. Don't discard. That's a Forge activation order. So Melly could just have it here. I think, Jenny, you're totally right. Like, for as wild as Anoetic is, almost nobody plays it. For as good and powerful as the card is, you don't see it in startup. Shuffling back a Snare and Anoetic. I think Melly probably has it here. Install in server 2.
Okay.
Let's see. Advance. That's going to get you the Regenesis. Let's get another point on the table. Big send a message takes you to 9. That's hard to do in startup, but good game. That's a split, right? We got both core points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, we did, because we had that amazing Drago play in the previous game.
Yeah, very true. Well played, both players. Mind you, this is table 1. These are the top players right now. I'm pretty sure this might be Melly's first organized play event. I have to double check that, but I think they're doing so well for the first time coming out. So well played.
I really hope that's true. Like that's amazing if this is their first organized play.
Yeah, you see Sauce there thought you wouldn't have the ETR when they just sent into R&D with the dirty laundry. And I think you're right. That might be one of the few end the runs in the actual full deck. So yeah, unfortunately a bit of a punish there. All right. We got some more time in the round. We got about 33 minutes. You want to jump to another table? Maybe we can do table 3? I don't think we've seen Goodnight so far.
I was going to say table 3.
Let's do it. All right. Whoa. We're in the middle of maybe a pretty big run here. It's Kit. I think this might be the only Kit at the event. Maybe there's two, but that's about Code Gates, and this Dirty Laundry is going to get up to 5 agenda points. Now, you see those 2 Nightmare Archives are counting as -1 agenda points, so in theory, Good Night is technically on game point, and if this deck has a single send a message in it, that's the brick that you generally don't want to be found, but advance on top of a Jupestad with 1 click left, and of a Trubius counter. That's going to be our first core damage. Now, we've seen Thule decks come in really difficult positions from behind. And now with a single core damage and with the Jupestad, things can kind of snowball out of hand as much as the 3 ontologicals are unaccounted for. We don't exactly have biotic money, but only 1 more Elevagao. So we'll see how that ends up. Pop-up window on R&D.
It's so wild to see like the ways that delays try to like look at econ generation.
Yeah.
Because it's such a hard thing out of delay. And it's like, you know, people bring pop-up windows, you know. I think Regolith is great, but slow. And so I can definitely see
That's good.
That's a good game.
Wow.
We have no idea how the beginning of that went, but that was only 11 turns, so 9 minutes. So I think the R&D pressure might have just got there. Maybe the kit ability has been pretty good, but I think the corp was at the point where there may be kind of, you know, getting around a corner there, as hard as it is to deal with probably, you know,
Wow.
endurance.
Was that a single access?
Yeah, I think it was.
That was single access.
Wow.
What is wild is I think they Maker's Eye, and like all 3 cards were, or sorry, 2 cards stolen, 1 drawn. So like it's so weird for the top of R&D to be fresh after a Maker's Eye, but yeah, that worked out.
Mm-mm.
I think kit's underrated in this meta as well, because it gets you to that kind of, you know, you want the KTCP Doom rig out.
Yeah.
And I think kit gets you there that little bit faster on most board states with, you know, like you see here, just a Buzzsaw and the KTCP is getting you through almost every ice on this board.
Yeah.
For 1 credit.
Super efficient. And 10 influence is not a great spot to be, but like Shaper is pretty self-sufficient in the format currently, as much as influence is great in startup. Kit GNK, Stephen. You want to jump into table 2 maybe?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. All
right, let's keep rolling. So we're definitely in the middle of a game. Utadi, mind you, is oracling for the king. We're looking at 2 to 4 points. It's worth noting that Encoder and Utadi, or the king, were in the top seed, but unfortunately, Encoder missed game 1 this round. They just did not come soon enough, so they got a game loss. So that's obviously a very frustrating place to be. But so this is the only game of the round. So Utadi, or the king, has won their first game. So this is all that matters in this round for the 2 players that are in the top of the pack. These are the undefeated players we're looking at still. Propeller coming down. We're smashing to server 1 again. Just contesting the Regolith is pretty important. PD is a very powerful ability, but inherently also not economic. So just making sure the Nikos and the Regoliths come down is pretty important. That's a big old Brawn, though. How much is it? It's only 3 credits with Propeller. That seems pretty good. As much as that's a turbine propeller, right?
Yeah, I definitely love these breakers that have like counters on them. Like, you know, again, we were talking about Revolver earlier, but you know, I've always enjoyed these. Like, they used to be like those dog breakers back in the day.
Exactly.
That, you know, had power counters, and yeah, they're just a little bit more powerful. They can break things a little cheaper.
They do make me miss Simul Chip out of startup though.
Yeah, it's a huge change. Is that, well, program distraction, we've seen it be pretty reasonable, but yeah, that propeller, maybe you can charge it with Padma, maybe a Daig, I'd be surprised. But yeah, that eventually will just, you'd have to just break the cheap stuff, right? Like you can get through the pings, you can get through the ice walls until they're advanced infinitely. But yeah, I think also Palisade is actually relatively well positioned in the format. Just having a 4 strength barrier is kind of good enough if you're expecting a lot of cleavers.
Cleaver is 3 strength on install or 1 strength on install?
Cleaver comes in on 3, yeah. Just like Buzzsaw, right?
Yeah. So 2 to boost and then 1 to break, right?
Exactly.
For a 3 to res ice, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Now, Earthrise we got down. Fermenter. Coder has that board state. So we'll see. We saw Seamless Launch in hand. I don't know if we're going to see Biotic Labors, but you have to score on a remote server. One of the big questions is how many pinholes are out, because that's the way you can deal with Anoetic Voids and Mana Garms. And even sometimes we see like Vlad Dispersk city grids in, you know, fast advanced remote servers. Works really well with Seamless, but 1 pinhole threading is out so far. And we're going deeper into the all barrier remote server. There's the pinhole. Does this work with Info Bounty? I think it does, right?
Yeah, because it's counted as successful on the central, and then it moves, I guess.
That's a Mana Garm. We're taking that down
I'm pretty
for 3.
sure.
I don't think it does. I think they're both replacement effects, and you can only use one.
Ah,
Oh yeah, instead of
Interesting.
breaching, and this says the first time your run ends.
You breach. Yeah, yeah.
oh,
That's
excuse me.
Interesting.
And I claim to be a current player.
I have no idea how that works either.
I only know because it's my favorite card from Borealis.
Ah.
So like,
It's a good one.
It is very good.
Teller coming down. Now we're checking HQ again. No clicks left. I don't know if there's big punishments you're expecting for that sort of thing. In fact, you're
Oof.
trying to get 3 of a kind, 3 off-worlds. That's probably the best on-tempo agenda that the king here wants on only 8 credits, and probably going to spend about 3 to 4 credits resing that ice on server 1.
Unlucky. Single access as well.
These double bronze are like really noteworthy. I think brawn is actually one of the most taxing ice in the entire format, as much as a runner has the option to just send it through if they really want to click. Otherwise, there's like nothing that breaks this very elegantly.
I do like that there's 2 subs that are in the run. So in a pinch, I guess you could click through one and then use it, like the 2 endurance counters to get rid of both end run routines or something like that. Like it's flexible.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's like intimidating while
Good
still
design.
offering options, which I definitely appreciate.
The 6 strength is so scary.
We have a card in server 1. Now the big threat here, mind you, maybe we don't expect that many 4-2 agendas. I think some of the HB lists are running 1 copy of Midnight 3 Arcology just because the agenda suite isn't as easy as it was last rotation. But with a seamless launch in hand, this could be, in theory, even a 5-3 if they have double seamless to boot. I think we've seen 1 so far, but I have no doubt Encoder has a bit more of a read on hand than we do.
I'm just checking what's in the bin, and it's Econ, Amenagam, and that's it. Been through 2 regoliths.
there was a seamless launch in
Wow.
HQ at one point.
Yeah, I think we just saw one last turn, maybe?
Yeah.
Now Encoder finally finding a cleaver. Again, you are going to have to boost into the brawn. Breaking brawn for 3 credits and a click is like not bad, but like what else is going to be that expensive with a turbine list? So you're feeling okay about that. Count your blessings.
And you've got the fermenter on the board. You've got your money from telework. I think you can afford to just run this remote server every time they put something in it, at least for a while.
Yeah. And then here, like, we'll see. I don't know. We don't have the MU for conduit. I think at some point the propeller obviously leaves. And then maybe you can like transition to multi-access. I don't think we're going to be on a wake implant as much as that is a good Padma card. We haven't been seeing a lot of it today.
There's a reason why you referred to this as a doom ring before. It is so scary.
It is quite frightening.
I
It does
think
take a while to set up, for sure. But once it's here, it's like what can you do?
I think it's why we've seen so many corps today either running pure fast advance or doing asset spam, because I think those are the 2 ways that you get around this problem of my remote doesn't really matter that much. So they can get through everything for pennies or boat counters or a mixture of both.
Yeah, and that might put PD in
see.
an awkward spot, right? Like maybe your upgrades are the unfair thing, but you're totally right. Like if it's just the quality of the ice, eventually this will overcome that problem. It's an anoetic. We're not resing that. So you can pull that down for 1 if you want. Maybe there's another pinhole. Maybe you can count influence. But the fermenters, I think, eat into that pretty hard. But the king is running out of ways to score in this remote server. Maybe Encoder steps out of line and kind of spends too much, but with like a fermenter and telework, it's let alone the no free lunch in the pocket. It's kind of hard to imagine that. Magnet.
Yeah, this might sound a little bit weird, but I might have been tempted to res the anoetic to protect the anoetic and discard stealable agendas from my HQ hand. You know?
Yeah, it's hard. The thing too is like if you fire the anoetic, it's even harder to use the next turn, which is maybe where it's relevant. But yeah, I don't know. I think also with the HQ mark, like you're pretty sure Cody was going to run HQ. So maybe that gets even harder in some ways. The king drawing up here, 6 cards in hand is what you're allowed. So even if there's 1 agenda in there, 1 and 6 is a fair bit better than 1 and 5, of course. But now there's no reason to run server 1. So Cody here can just get credits, can just hunker down. Maybe you want to go for a single on HQ. It seems relatively cheap. I think that info bounty has only been on HQ so far from what we've seen, which is exactly where we want it to be. Maybe in R&D once in a while, it's okay.
He's got to like, is the randomization working or something?
Yeah, who knows?
Is it broken?
You can always blame the shuffler, right?
Yeah.
Magnet for 1, we're getting that money back. That same seamless. At this point, you have to assume there's more than one in hand. And now we're just going to take a bunch of clicks that are akin to click for 3 credits. I think the last one was click for 8, but 24 credits. The remote server. In terms of the defensive upgrades, we've seen 1 Mana Garm, 1 Anoetic. So even those at face value won't keep you out. I think the Anoetic would probably be the best case, as much as you don't often see 2.
I feel like it's a matter of time on this board state unless the king can come up with something really special.
Yeah. I think you're going to need something wild like snares. Like, not that Public Trail is going to do it, but like, you need a different angle of attack. We're going to RD now. That's 2 credits. Archives is the mark, but that shouldn't matter too much. Maybe you can do a check. And then the Brawn here, we'll see how much we want to pay. Maybe we can just finish the Propeller, but we're going to spend 4. So 6 for a single axis is a lot, but we have that endurance counters. We got the Padma ability, so I do think this is quite fair. Top of the deck, no steal, no trash. Oh, this is a deep dive turn, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be.
Yeah, I think the Fermenter pull kind of dictates that this is a deep dive turn, just to make sure that Encoder has enough credits to get in everywhere comfortably and still spend, what is it, 2 credits for a deep dive on the last click?
Yeah. I think this is where you really miss border control from startup, because knowing this now, which I expect the king does, you would want to fire a border control.
Yeah, I think the best you have is Chrysium or any defensive upgrade, but
Yeah.
again, the runner sees that coming, so they just spend a turn taking that stuff down, and I don't think we're in a rush here. That's an on sale, though, for 3 credits is pretty great. Palisade from HQ, we know 2 and 6 at least. Archives run here at 5 credits. I think the king probably sees the writing on the wall here. You just have to whiff. Hope that like that 8 axis whiffs. Is it 8 or 9 cards?
8.
8, and Luminol is going to be the only one in there. That's going to be game. Encoder, after taking that game loss to time constraints, is going to be able to split. And I think that ID is probably what you wanted to get anyways. It's at least you're going to feel a fair bit better than, really losing on an important round because of thanks ID all wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels bad. You got to get to your table on time, of course, though.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it could have been a win, right?
It could have been a win. Okay. We have a bit of time left here. You want to jump into table 6?
Sure.
Let's do it. I think we have about maybe 15 minutes left. So I think we're going to get to the end of every game. At this point, I think this one's over as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like Fixby got there. Again, this is a Padma list. No surprise to see all those breakers on the table. We got to 7. Again, no Nightmare Archives from Thule and scoring the send a message. That's usually how this deck loses. That is kind of like the shortcoming from this for sure. Cool. Let's go.
So where do we want to go? Table 15?
I think that's the only option. Let's do it. All right. So Sysig's on op. We haven't seen an op today, have we?
I think this is the first one.
That's so cool. So I've seen some Sysig's posts of deck lists online. I've actually liked a fair bit of the ones that I've seen. I do think some of the interesting things here you can see is Pharaohs. And there are some like really wild op lists in startup that are running triple Pharaohs and then just eating them with speed to core to make them at instant speed sand city grids, which is kind of like the wildest play because there's not a lot. I think it's the only 6 cost card in the entire format. Oh, actually, no, there's more. There's like Ansel and Brown and stuff, but there's not a lot of them. I think it's the only 7 cost, excuse me. Spin Doctor on the table, mind you, we are 6-6. At any point, if there's a third hostile takeover off the top of the deck, that is going to be game. So we still have a chance here. 3 clicks left, mandatory after Spin Doctor. It looks like we're using the Spin Doctor right now. I think after the draw.
I know you're such like a fan of ops, but like I've watched every single like deck dive, and I still don't know how ops works. I cannot pilot this deck to save my life. You're telling me you want me to trash a 7 cost ice?
Yeah, to win the game, right? Seems reasonable. We're also seeing the half runs there, and there's going to be so much respect from the runner because if they run into the half run Stavka combo, mind you, we see 1 Stavka on the table without going too deep into it. As long as there's 3 cost res, you can go get the half run from the deck. So running into a Stavka on R&D is basically going to trash 2 of the breakers, and criminals generally don't have redundant breakers, so that is going to be a big issue for Gorf on the runner side. So Sysig might just be waiting to draw into an agenda that they can go ahead and maybe, Svidagor into Pharaohs into Sansan, but at any moment, you have to put on the pressure, but still be very scared of program destruction from anywhere.
Familiar with no cybernetics installed.
Yeah, feels bad.
Yeah, that's so expensive.
What is it to break Pharaohs?
Oh, I don't
Like
know.
7?
We cannot.
Yeah.
A lot
It's
of money.
if you want to break it all, it's 10.
Oh no,
Oof.
that's not good. Yeah, you're right.
Or-
Ice
and then the
wall on
next
its
turn they
own.
triple advance it.
Ice wall for 3 is a lot now. Coffee is going to help you there. We got the Chesva. In terms of the Hordem, you're feeling good about the Hyperbaric, and this single axis obviously can win the game. A Spin Doctor was fired here, so we've drawn a lot. And I think Sisig needs to win by fast advancing here. I don't know if he can comfortably score behind a Pharaohs as much as it is a bit of a nightmare break. But we'll see Hordem here. You don't have to break all the subroutines if you don't want to. A credit might not matter on 22. Penny Shaver, HQ, Svi to Gore from hand. We're going to get a credit back from Zaya. Oh, we're seeing 2 here. Sorry, extract. That was also
Yeah, we
the
got twinning.
twinning. Yeah, very good. So Gorf now just trying to win off the singles, and I think R&D is basically out of the question. We trashed both of those. That actually, as much as that might not be like meaningful, or we trashed, sorry, the Regolith as well. We saw 3 here. Excuse me. Got to catch up to the board state, but that means it's easier to run HQ next turn. They're not holding trashables as much as they don't matter. Okay.
I'm just trying to think about what you do about this game state because it's going to take like 2 extra turns to build up more twinning counters. There's no waking plant, so even if you did want to make a huge dive on R&D, then like, how do you build those counters? Like,
Yeah, it's really
rough.
hard. I think Sig here can always hit the Regolith if they want to.
That's beautiful. That's truly beautiful. Triple advanced power ups, bring it up to 10 strength. Which I'll just run the maths real quick.
Yeah. Let us know how that goes.
That's 16 credits? I think that's 16 credits to break with the tremolo, unless they get a cybernetic down at some point.
Inside job would
Thanks,
probably
I
be the
hate it.
punishment. We've seen 1 in the bin, so maybe we have that coming up here. I think also you can crack the Regolith, right, to get your op, to get like another Ice Wall in HQ, but I don't know. It looks like they're going to try and score outside the Pharaohs, like maybe ice up the Pharaohs with a Regolith Ice Wall and then jam behind it. Because otherwise you have to speed the Pharaohs before you draw your mandatory, so you don't know if you have Sansan into 3-2, because again, you don't know if you're going to top deck the 3-2. But we see Sansan in the bin, so I don't know. Maybe the list is only running 1 Sansan. I don't actually know what the compositions for a lot of these lists look like. But we see Biotic and Sansan, so you're scared of fast advance as much as there's probably a lot of 3-2s in this list.
A lot of these will
There-
run one-offs because you've obviously got that tutoring ability almost every single turn.
And we have 1.
There's no way I'm trashing an ice that cost me 7 to res and I've advanced 3 times.
If it wins you the game. But yeah, no, I totally hear you. Triple advance is so expensive.
Wow.
So Gorf,
Yeah, this is so hard for the criminal.
figuring this one, career faring down a scrubber. That kind of sounds like they want to deal with the Sphedagore. Maybe they just want to run centrals, but it's hard to get enough value on that scrubber. We have 13 minutes left in the game. Okay, cool. We're going to get definitely a proper narrative ending to this thing. 6-6 though is a really frightening place to be. And you
We
maybe
think they're running the third hostile is the question. So looking at their
Yeah.
agenda suite, it's really hard to tell.
It's like the third hostile is kind of ugly in some ways, right? Because it puts you to an odd amount of agendas unless you're playing a 3-pointer. And generally that means you're playing 1 more agenda than you need to. But obviously like hostels are good. As much as bad pub is not great, like it gets you out of this situation.
But it means it's only 14 to break that Pharos, which is a steal.
Yeah, no, any credit helps. Hitting the Hordem again, Ice Wall. We've gone through for the full 3. That's Bad Pub and Chesva. You can use your Bad Pub before your Chesva if you really want. I don't think it makes a huge difference. Actually, you always want to use your Bad Pub before the Chesva.
I would love to see a resol after this game and like do the math and count if R&D is like more expensive than a single Pharos that's been triple advanced.
Just like you can't, if the outermost of
Yeah.
R&D is a Stavka, it's like game over. You lose your whole breaker suite.
Definitely.
It's
definitely.
so hard if you don't have a second killer
Mm,
or like a backstitching, right? Like any panic button.
yeah.
So we saw the Sphi. We're trashing that. Again, we got value from our scrubbers and an extract. So we know 1 of 3 cards. There's the Wake. That's cybernetic. You probably wanted to try and get that down before HQ. I wonder if there's a card in hand you're worried about trashing. But next turn, we're going to be able to build up those Wake counters. So Sai could have it here again. Regolith, you click that once, you get 3 credits and an Ice Wall. And Ice Walls are not unmeaningfully taxing. Like 2 credits is something.
I'm speechless. I do not know how they get in. Like as you said, they've got some HQ access, but
Yeah.
that is their only line basically.
I think Sai's going to have to push out onto the Pharaohs. Like, I think you have to double ice it so you can play around inside job and then just get something in the remote server. I don't know if there's defensive upgrades. Again, sometimes the lists that are running like my viruses can at instant speed pull like a manic arm. That's always like a really nice trick. And it looks like that might be what we're seeing here. Maybe all those HQ accesses just whiffed. Maybe we just haven't top decked it yet. We're looking at 12 agenda points out of the game. So you're assuming there's 8 more between R&D and HQ, and that easily could be the game right there. Can Gorf get in? You're going to need an inside job and a lot of money very quickly.
So something I slightly left out of my maths is that you can just take the tag. If you think this is game, you can take that tag, and that would save you 3 credits, or now 2 credits with that wake implant installed because that is a cybernetic.
So with Bad Pub, they have 10. Say you do credit, or sorry, you also have no free lunch. So, right, we have 6 more credits. We inside job, we have 4 more credits. We sail through whatever this is. And then I think we actually can get through the Pharaohs. Mind you, the Spheda Gore was trashed. So we know that's more likely. Not that you couldn't like bluff with an upgrade, but yeah, it higher stakes for sure.
But this outside ice could be anything. If you've not got the inside job in hand,
yeah,
you're in a lot of trouble.
Like even if it's a Stavka, right? Like you're back in that situation. Yeah. Admittedly, one Stavka's in the bin, one's on the table. So if it's a Stavka there, R&D at least you could run, but you're not going to find out if that's the reality until it's a bit too late. Wait, is Hafron 3 to res or 2 to res? It's 2 to res. I think
it's 2.
So you actually don't worry about Stavka Hafron because they have no 3-coster to trash.
Yeah.
Docklands, that's coming in. So this is going to see 2 and get a Waking Plant counter. As much as a Waking Plant counter might not matter, at least the Cybernetics financially has some relevance. Tremolo the Ice Wall. 2 to break 2. Strength doesn't matter. We hit Hordem. Again, 2 more credits. You can always save a credit here. I think with Bad Pub and Chesva, you might not need to, but giving 18 to 19 credits doesn't change much. We're going to see Hedge Fund and Seamless Launch. Seamless Launch actually opens up a lot of opportunities for server 2 to be just about anything. Saya gaining 3 though, that's like good.
Off-world office or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, anything that's 4x. Yeah, wow.
I'll tell you what Stavka could do. If you've got the money to run it, and if the runner's got the money to run it, and you know they're going to get in, you can trash that ice wall with Stavka, bring out a spin doctor, trash the agenda, and put it into archives, and buy yourself another 10.
Yep, it's a really hard thing to play around. There's like no way really in the format to play around it, but that's always a nice panic button. I feel like though Sai has in the remote server, they're feeling more and more comfortable, obviously, as this turn continues. So Gorf knows this might be their last 2 clicks here. They have 9 credits, but 2 Bad Pub, 3 on Penny Shaver, 3 on No Free Lunch. You're going to discard 1 here. Oh, sorry, no core damage so far. Decide just have it. Seamless Launch in the remote server will get you there. That should be a triple advance. Not even a seamless for style. It is an Azief protocol trashing the Regolith, getting 2 meat damage in, and that'll take them to 8 points. Good game to both players.
Yeah, you aren't kidding. They definitely seem to understand what Ops wants to do.
Yeah, I think
like clean play, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect. I think the Hafron is like, or Stavka Hafron is annoying, but like admittedly you can actually test the water a bit, because if they don't get a 3-coster, they actually can't threaten it because they have to trash a 3-coster. I think there's 10 minutes left. Oh, that was game 1. That kind of makes sense. This is like turn 37 or something. Turn 18. Okay, not that bad, but okay. They probably are going to go to time here. I guess we're going to watch out as that does happen. It's worth noting, if this is your first tournament, when time is called, and we'll be able to call time in chat. I'm just going to double check with Maddie. Okay, so I'll be able to hear from across the apartment when time is called. And then basically the active player is going to they finish their turn, and then their opponent gets to finish their turn. At the end of that, whoever has the most points gets a full win. So there's no like timed win that's not worth less points or fewer points. So just getting points on the table and not losing the central accesses might be the name of the game. 56 cards, Essa. I don't know how to play around that.
Big Essa.
They could have anything.
Big Essa. I gotta respect it. Big Essa.
You know what's also wild? It's like Playing against Sabotage when time is coming up is the most terrifying thing, because like even just sabotaging once, unfortunately, like could cost you the whole game if like time is coming up.
But I think it's quite easy to get that big sabotage turn as Essa. It's just a matter of usually it's a matter of timing it so that you can get the maximum number of agendas. But if all you care about is getting 2 points right now, then you can do it.
Yeah. You just send it.
I've done it in tournaments. It doesn't feel good, but sometimes it's the right play.
We're going to get that no free lunch down for respect. We're losing our Noom, but we're going to go start with the finality. Again, this starts with a Sabotage 2. Essa on the core damage. Again, that's a Sabotage 2 and the card draw. We are going to see 4 cards here, and there might be a Spin Doctor on the table. Those cards, where did they come from? 2 from R&D, just random in archives. 4 off the top and nothing.
My God. Wow.
Whoa, what's on the table? I have no idea.
Yeah, I love how we're all just like, whoa.
Like what?
Oh my goodness.
Maryland campaign? That's like a card you play. Snare? Okay, this is a game. Oof. Now, if they did not install the no free lunch, they could potentially lose to like some wild combination with end of line, as much as credits might not be there. But that like no free lunch gives you that flexibility to check like last click. In terms of other things we lost a Maro, but we didn't lose a Chestushka or another finality, which I think is like one of the scariest things, again, to just like coming to time on Essa, let alone running hot. Any sort of sabotage is like a problem.
This is a really good practice. Like playing when time is close is something that you have to face. You have to do in tournaments every now and then, right? Yeah. And like, this is a different style of Netrunner. This is a different play style. Like people keep that in mind. Like any agenda could be a winning pull. So it's interesting to see how people play when the turns are numbered, basically.
So I don't know if you know this.
It's exciting.
But like in very, very old FFG Netrunner world, tournaments actually cared about how many points you scored. And sometimes you got into weird interactions where like the game started and all you had to do to win was score 1 point. And then you scored enough points that you won the event. Like that's a bit of a reduction, but there were like final events that showed up on stream on like Team Covenant stuff where the play was just like turn 1 hostile takeover, win the event.
Oh, no.
Time was so weird. Like, what is it? Almost 10 years ago now. But yeah, at least at this point,
it was a different time.
Yeah,
it was a different time.
Totally different.
There was definitely whispers in my meta about people like purposefully stalling and all that sort of thing, and like, it's like
yeah, no, that's not a
completely different time. Like we have stuff around that now. So
Gorf throwing 2 ice on HQ, mind you, with 0 credits. There's no ice in the format you can res besides pop-up window. So maybe we're setting up for a Svita Gore. Maybe there's some bluff play here, but it's hard to expect what this ice is. Also, with Snare in the deck, you're feeling a bit better when they're on 0 credits. Sai can just get those cheesy central accesses, or not cheesy, but easy, excuse me. Banhar too. I think that's why you play the big Essa deck, right? Just to have more fuel for the fire.
Like I think I'm willing to admit at this point in my life that finality turn 1 is cheesy.
Yeah, well, you come into time. It's like the play, 100%. Yeah. Just send it. You got it. Send it. I do think.
To be honest,
sorry.
I think I would make that play even in a non-timed event if you've not guarded R&D and I've got finality in hand.
Yeah,
I might play short gamble first, but that finality is coming down. I want to see 4 cards off the top.
I think that's also a big reason why no free lunch came down first, because that sort of play is like pretty weak to public trail and to end of the line, and there was still respect for that, which was sick.
Yeah, no, I've got Crim Brain. If I see like I don't want to take any card damage. Thank you. I'm good.
Banhar labeling server 3, mind you, we can face check. It's just going to cost us cards in hand. We haven't seen Steel Skin Scarrings, but that's like the tempo positive way to not have to deal with ice. But R&D is wide open. We're not going for accesses. Gorf just doesn't have credits, but hey, that raindrops means that no matter what happens on this run, you're feeling pretty good about it. And with 1 credit, it's Ice Wall or bust. It looks like we're going to get in. It's a Regolith. No one's trashing that. That's just going to be on the table. Again, 2 credits to res to gain access to 15 more if you have the clicks to spare.
I have a lot of takes about Regolith. That's so much money.
It's a lot of money. And it's so
it's
good.
It's a lot of money.
Op where it becomes something once it's done, let alone you get it for free clicklessly. Katurga.
Yep.
This is a finality coming back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like what else?
It's a Maro coming back. Okay, Maro in hand. That's just sabotage. You're not going to play this turn. But again, if you're worried about taking core damage and hand size, this card's important. And maybe with 50, what is it, 66 cards or something wild? Maybe you value getting that consistently more than just wands and axes. Credit. Gorf going to go for the Regolith again. That's really quite good. Now they can actually res ice. And mind you, Banhar can deal with a single ice. Can you deal with 2 ice on HQ? What does double ice on HQ mean this early? Are the agendas in hand? Is Server 2 a Spin Doctor? A lot of options here. I wonder if you just want to check the table. Again, snare money is now back on the table. Banhar.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big deal. I mean, obviously you can, hold the cards that you need and everything. Oh, not now, I guess. But if you had pulled out finality, or if you draw another one, it's like at any point you know that they could multi-access or hit a snare, and you want to have that money. And yeah, resing ice, of course, expensive, but it's I don't know, it's a tricky situation when you're like how do you do something quickly?
Yeah.
I'm surprised one of the cards that was installed turn 1 wasn't an agenda, actually.
We have no idea what server 2 is. Like, I reckon it could have been scored out by now. I think there's a big chance it's a spin or a snare, and maybe that was the play early. But now the sabotage, I think 2 came from HQ, so there's a lot of cards in archives. If that's a spin doctor, the longer you don't check it, the less likely the fruits of your sabotage labor are going to spoil. So you kind of want to check that, I think, before you commit further into it. Bladderwort comes down on the table too. Mind you, Regolith becomes a 1-coster. As much as this is just a credit a turn and some influence spend, that kind of gives you a read on what this deck is trying to do to you. It might just be like an instant speed Reaper function, like even Anemone can come at instant speed sometimes in these op decks. They can hurt you out of nowhere. Time has just been called. Oh, Cror did it. Thank you, Cror in chat. Huge shout out to Cror, who offered to volunteer to help judging this in the middle of the event itself, which, like, massive respect. So now time has been called in size 6 turns, so they have 1 click left to steal any amount of points. So your question is there a spin doctor in server 2? If that's the case, archives is not where you want to be. Can you just send it R&D HQ, with Banhar there? You only get through 1 ice. Probably not the case that Mayfly is going to do it on its own. So it looks like we're going to finality. I think that's the best case here.
Yeah.
To see the most cards. Let's go. Dice to double snare, but the game's going to be over if you don't. It is a single snare. If server 2 is a Reaper function, we actually get a flat line. Well, 2 more? Nothing.
Oh my gosh.
How?
If Gorf has 1 damage from hand, if they have an end of the line they can get, if they have a Bladderwort they can't duck, if they have a Reaper function, or if they have a hostile takeover, there's a bunch of cards that get them out of this state. GG, this is a full tie unless a player finds points. Bladderwort for 1.
What is the most expensive agenda that you can asset that you can probably res?
I think it's hostile
like
architecture.
A City Grid or something.
They have an end of line. They had it.
Wow.
In hand.
Oh my god.
I feel like that is one of the cases where, like, if they called time maybe 1 moment sooner, I think actually Sai had to click up to get to to get to the finality. So yeah, all you have to do is clear the tag there. Unfortunately, both players might get a draw, but Gorf is going to take the win.
It was off the top. It was off the top.
Oh, that's why they said GG.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, that's why they hit the snare. Yeah, okay. Good game to both players. That's pretty wild.
This looks like a really interesting deck to me, and I wouldn't mind following it next round if other people are interested.
The up one?
Yeah, the odd one.
Yeah, I think I'd be excited to see a bit more of it. Speaking about big more of it.
That's the core for handling the judging at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. On that note, I think
Maddie too. Thank you for holding it down.
Of course, yeah. I think we have a couple of things to update before we just get round 4 paired up. So I'm going to throw just some music. We'll be back just in a bit. Again, this is not our final round. It's technically the final round of Swiss, and from there we're going to do a top cut, depending on whether it's a top 4 or top 3. It's going to be based on how clear the standings are from that point on. But don't go anywhere. We'll be back. We have another full round and a top cut to get through. I'm so excited y'all are joining us again. My name is Andre from the Metropole Grid, but I'm very happily joined by Asphyxia and Marbles. How's your it's like evenings for both of y'all, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 8 p.m. here. Like, we're broadcasting from 3 continents today.
Literally
That's
around
so
the world. It's pretty wild.
Everybody's coming out. Let's go.
All right, we're going to throw some music. We'll be back. It is coming up for round 4. That's our final round, and we'll see y'all in a bit. All right, welcome back. This is the start of April 2023 online GNK, the first online GNK we've got on this channel. If you're watching this and it's a VOD, maybe you're watching it much later and you're interested to get involved, you can. We'll probably be running more of these and they're totally free to enter. And we're just so stoked that people are coming out to participate. This is round 4, our final round. Very quickly, I want to shout out, I'm joined by Sixia and Marbles. How's it been going? Y'all been with me. It's for a long time again from all across the globe. I know it's getting late on your sides, but thanks so much for joining me.
I am based in Cozy Pills right now, ready for more games.
Hey, we got a bit more. So we understand the narrative here. There is currently 6 players who are on 15 points. We're going to be cutting to what's likely going to be a top 4. We're basically going to see if there's an even break that there's like only 3 players that are on like whatever 21 points. Maybe they'll just have a top 3, but we're definitely going to have a top cut here because we have enough players. The pairing should be up. And if players are probably getting to their tables, we might see some 2-for-1, some IDs, stuff like that. That will just trickle through the judging side. But yeah, we still got some Netrunner to watch today. Welcome to the final round. And again, as much as we're focusing on top tables, as generally we do for most broadcast stuff, there's so many people who are showing up to play today, who have been coming out to play last weekend as well. And just getting involved in online organized play is like one of the most important things for the health of this game. And hopefully it's a nice opportunity to get involved and meet people and share your enjoyment of this game. So props to all y'all.
All the new people who've been coming in have been so lovely to play in random lobbies as well. Just they're trying new decks and stuff, and it's just every game I'm just having a chat about like what their tech is and like what they could have done and stuff. So welcome if you are new.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of new players. I think in this, we asked specifically on the registration, like, is this your first tournament? And we got like 7 or 8 people saying that, yeah, this is their first tournament that they're participating in. So I think that's absolutely fantastic to hear. And I hope that, I want to hear y'all feedback after this, whether this was what you expected, if we could do anything better. Because again, this is the first of hopefully many. So that'll be okay.
Yeah, I want to hear it in chat. I mean, obviously not during games and stuff, but tell us how your game went.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nice when people sound off and they're like, "Oh, that game was close," and like.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
such a
exciting.
different experience to JNet Casual. I think partly because you get to know the other players a bit better, and you're both on like your top games. Like, when I got into kind of semi-competitive Netrunner last year, I remember like my favorite game ever was a game that I lost playing as Jinteki, just because like the plays my opponent was making, stuff like jacking out at the last possible second before they would have lost the game, were fantastic. And I think that's what
I
you
love
get
that.
from like what you get from competitive play that you don't necessarily get in JNet Casual.
Definitely. Okay, so let's have a look at what he's up. It is mostly Padma.
Yes.
At the top cut.
So I can show hide identities. I probably should have done that a minute ago, but yeah, at the top cut, there's a fair bit of Padma, which on average for a conversion rate to the whole field is probably not astounding considering Padma is the most impressive, but Padma is doing good. I don't think we saw Lu today, and I think there's only one Lu at this event, and I'm convinced that like Endurance Lu is probably one of the best decks in the format, and we've seen way more Essa than we've seen basically any other Anarch. I think we saw Quetzal today, but like, oh, there's 2 Lus, excuse me, and I think Lu's in a really good spot.
One of them's in top place. The King's playing one of those games, according to this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the one we're seeing currently in those top 6 players. But again, also for what's worth, the players who are like table 5 to 9, if they are like really competitively minded, which again, I didn't advertise this as a super competitive tournament. I'm just happy people are playing. But if people are shooting for the top cut, we're going to see a bunch of players do 2-for-1s in which they agree to play one side of the match and then they use that as the result for both matches, which is kind of the outcome that's necessary for either of those players to challenge the top cut. So a lot of times people go for that like mutually assured destruction, if you want to call it that. But it works out if you want to make cuts. And I think
I guess it's like to avoid getting a tie and then neither of them getting in. So
which helps no one, which like you don't want to do that. And again, their strength of schedule gets better for whatever that's worth. Cool. I think we should just be good. I'm just going to check in with Maddie to make sure everything seems okay. I'm looking right now in JNet and I think most of the tables are filled, but again, there's always some conversation.
I think we need a stock update as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, stock update. I think we're like 1 point quarter. I think she definitely had a bunch of the first one, but like one of them is done and it looks great.
Awesome.
All right, hold on. I think I'm just going to double check. Give me 1 second. All right, round 4 has begun. And we're off. So There it is. All right, let's throw it back. Again, welcome to round 4. These two players have, I think they've only lost one game today so far. Encoder started with the bye today, but unfortunately lost a game to just not showing up on time. We can tease Cody the amount that is appropriate. And then Sauce has been playing really well as well on a Sable list. I forget what Sauce's influence is on. I think Sauce is on double endurance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember what else.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We've seen a whole bunch of Sables, so like it's sometimes hard to figure out where the influence goes, but I do think this is the double endurance list. Now,
I still love Sable.
Sable's so fun.
So fun.
I think they fixed it now. We see the mark. I think that's great. I think JNet has updated itself. I don't know what happened, but now things look better, which is fantastic. We're dirty laundering again.
It still,
That-
still says Gmod for me.
Oh, really? I think mine's good, and I don't know what I did.
Well, okay, stream view is the only thing that matters. Let's be real, but
So we have dirty laundry there for archives. That was the mark. So as much as 3 credits and no access isn't amazing compared to Open Centrals, it's 3 credits clicklessly. And now we can just go ahead and get our access if we really want to. Freedom of information off the top. That tells you that tags are obviously going to matter. You're not surprised in Reality Plus. Triple Advanced, though, gives you the headline and the tag. As much as you can't capitalize on the tag, that becomes an agenda that only costs you 1 credit to score out. So like not an off-world office, but like you'll take it.
yeah, I mean, some argument could be made for like saving it for the seamless launch turn, so you can get a tag punish,
Exactly.
whether it's retribution or end of the lane. But full cards, nothing installed. Like just get it out of the deck.
So I think this is almost opening hand endurance, coming down with a massive money attached to info bounty and that Carpe Diem. You're definitely going to want to clear that tag, especially with 2 cards in hand. So we'll probably see that last click there with 5 credits. Now here, Cody can win. If Cody has public trail to end the line, that's it. It's game over. Now it's hard to have that with this few cards into the deck, but mind you, this is a 44 minimum. So some of these things are a bit more consistent. But if you don't have 8 credits and you made a successful run and you don't have a no free lunch, they can just give you a tag. And with 3 cards in hand, that tag matters.
I would be shaking in my boots right now.
Yeah.
I think they wouldn't be waiting this long if they got it in hand.
I think there's a chance like Encoder might have the public trail, which again, you only play for 2 credits in Reality Plus if you wanted. Like, is that worth trading for the info bounty at the cost of having your win condition like not in your hand maybe in 2 turns? And I think there's some argument as much as like just icing up your centrals relatively well, as much as we've seen archives 3 times in a row is definitely the worst case scenario with endurance and info bounty on the table.
Well, that's the archives curse. Everyone who plays info bounty knows this. It will just get stuck on archives over and over again. We're not imagining it, I promise.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good for you, but yeah, other times, oh man, I wish my my tunnel vision actually does something.
Yeah, the extra money is nice, and you can do it clicklessly. But I'm sure you'd be wishing to hit other servers.
No, this is good. Yeah, this is quite good. No free lunch now? That sort of public trail window has closed significantly. So maybe there's a fun house. I do think we saw Cody play some Maze Amusements as well. So there's going to be like a surprise, suddenly 2 tags, which I think is super relevant if tags are your win condition. And just about every deck we've seen today is playing at least 2 copies of No Free Lunch. Carpe Diem on HQ, Docklands Pass. We're going to find a ping. So there is a single tag there. You're going to get a click back, mind you, once you endurance through this. So you still have 2 clicks to clear tags if you hit a snare or something here. Shipment from Vladisibirsk. No surprise, but there is the snare. Trashing.
Harder to fire for R plus on this board state because they're not going to get those 2 credits back, and they're now down to 5.
We saw Reprise
That's the
get
second tag.
trashed.
Yeah, it's the second tag.
We haven't seen a Reprise hit so far. I think we've seen them only get lost to damage. I'd love to see a well-timed Reprise in just about any game, and I still think it's a card worth playing. Seamless Launch, though. Crypto Crash? No, Off-World Office. We're going to be up on 9 credits. 4 points as well. Runner's still in a pretty good spot, though, with just an endurance and enough pressure off centrals with the info bounty and the safety of no free lunch. I think we're going to just see Run and R&D this turn as long as we have 3 cards in hand to respect snare. Yo,
That Docklands Pass extra access into a snare is like poetic.
Speaking of the tag, there's a ping. Let's see if Cody draws 2 against 2. Have you all seen the interaction with Reality Plus and Snare and R&D?
No.
It's so funny to do that.
So if the runner hits a snare in R&D and you haven't triggered your Reality Plus, because the snare gives a tag, you can choose to draw 2, and you end up drawing the snare that they're accessing, and then they stop accessing it so they can't trash it.
I do not understand
It's
what
like
you just said, but
most unintuitive thing to me that like I can't understand. You can rip a card out of someone's hand, but like when that happens and you get a double snare as much as it is expensive, it's the wildest thing.
you know that meme where it's like somebody's like staring off into space and it's the calculus above the head,
Yeah.
trying to understand. Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess that like I'm trying to remember how Virtuoso works. So I'm trying to work out if you could get hit by the same snare.
I think you can.
So 2 times on one run.
Yeah, you can hit the same snare twice. Yeah.
That is wild. I love it.
So top tables, mind you, has Matryoshka decks. Obviously, it's Matryoshka with endurance, which is a bit of a, a stronger beast for sure. But we get through that ping for 1 credit. I do think we lost a cup of coffee, which is kind of what you want to back this up. But these sort of engines are so cool because getting the early accesses, not having to worry about ice types is so important for Zaya for like info bounty. Like it's a really nice combination. Last click Funhouse. A bit risky here as much as you have the no free lunch, but as soon as you give away that no free lunch, you're like, again, I guess we're going in here. Again, you died a public trail into end of line. You're feeling a bit better with the tomorrow's headline out, but like there is a bunch of things here, especially after the spin doctor. We're going to see 3 more.
Yeah.
This could be it again.
You gotta pop the new free lunch, but yeah, definitely the public trail into end of the line is real.
Yeah.
Right now. Oh my god.
We've only
such
seen
a risky play.
We've seen snare influence so far. That's all we've seen. I think you're okay doing the Funhouse run with the one tomorrow's headline out. It looks like there's no punishment there, but Cody didn't have it a couple turns ago. We've drawn a fair bit since then, but Ice on Archives, I do like that. I think you need to keep the endurance counters out because Matryoshka doesn't do as much pressure if you can only break 1 ice a turn, let alone the double ice remote. So we'll see here again. 4 points to both players. Dirty laundry. We're going to pay 1 to get 2 back as Sable and an endurance counter. So this is a great run. Love to see a snare here. Nothing from the top. All that Sable value is going to come through again. We started that run at like 2 credits. We're up on 8. Feels pretty good. Endurance also charging itself up. Pretty important.
What is this biased commentary? I'd love to see a snare right now.
Well, everyone does. Everyone just wants to see snares in every deck. Triple advance. We're on game point. Do NBN decks run post-truth dividend? Is that a real card?
That's the T1, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Draws you a card. I feel like Reality Plus decks don't, but NEH decks sometimes do, because if you're all about draw, you might as well get some more draw.
Because if you're not running any odd number agenda, like you're in that awkward spot where you have to score out another 4-2, which can be difficult. Red team on HQ, mind you, that's pretty good value on top of the Docklands for 2, the info bounty for 2. That's a lot of money tied into this run. We're going to flip the Matryoshka to get here. But if there is a 2-1 there, that's the way out of this, that you can score just from hand. Criminals can't interact with that. Not that anyone really can interact with Fast Man. It's Retribution and a Beal in hand. So I don't know if we're going to expect a biotic labor, but now we're both on game point. Any just like running through a ping cheaply can do it. You can just send it. I don't know whether you're going to see a finality, but red team makes that R&D run a fair bit better, even if you have to endurance through that little ping. We're through here again. This could be it. We've seen 12 points out of what's only 18 in the whole deck. So there's 6 points, probably like 3 agendas and 25 left. Is that the math?
Bad?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's an 18-point deck, right? Because it's 40 cards. So 3 more agendas, 2 more if they're both send a message, I guess.
Like, that's wild. This didn't look like agenda flood, but the math shows that this is definitely some sort of agenda flood.
Yeah.
Like, we got a spin doctor. Yeah, this is also like the pressure of Sable is so good into these sort of board states where like you just can't stop drawing agendas. Because this deck wants to run centros every single turn, which you can't exactly say about all the rest of the field.
Which is something that makes Endurance, an already very powerful card, even more powerful.
Yeah. And downsides of Matryoshka and all that, yes. It's like one of the best homes for it, as much as this is not a green faction. Pink, red team, mind you, unironically good in startup. I'm kind of into it. We're going through for 1 credit. We're gaining back 3. It's not the mark. Archives, mind you, is the mark here, but any single axis can be quite impactful. Up on 9 credits to respecting the public trails.
You're telling me this card has 4 dirty laundries in it?
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, it's 4. I thought it was 5. Yeah, 4 is good enough, right?
Yeah.
We're getting that Earthrise
That's just
down.
card compression at that point.
Yeah, I'm confused. It's like basically Regolith, right? We like Regolith. Obviously, the numbers are a bit different.
Definitely.
HQ, R&D probably both getting some
Wow.
better ice. I think we're expecting the Tsarevnas. Those are kind of hard to deal with for both of the breakers on the table. Obviously, a Funhouse would be good. I don't know if you're going to see a Messna Chestfo, but that's pretty good as much as you don't really want to advance it if you can avoid it. Even just
I'm
like
gonna
a
guess
Vasilisa.
Telby on R&D. I'm gonna guess a Telby's on R&D for sure.
Cool. That's also would be quite good as much as we see our second doll nested in.
I'm gonna guess Funhouse already. We've not seen a Hush today.
Not
I think
once.
Hush is so underplayed.
Saryevna. Here, there's a really interesting option whether Cody wants to pay 2 to force the subroutines. Cody does. So 2 of these subroutines are going to fire. And at that point, you're not sure whether you want to spend Matryoshka to flip 1 down to deny the subroutine. It's your choice which subroutine you want to break. Which one do you want to break? Net damage doesn't seem that good with like 7 cards in hand.
Yeah, but you gotta remember Crim Brain. Like, one of those cards is gonna be like incredibly key to your whole game plan, and you can't take the net damage. They take the net damage, okay?
All right, they're preventing the tag, which has a lot more value, obviously, in Reality Plus. But that is a pretty good face check. We lost there an info bounty and a pinhole. I think only one of those is pretty reasonable, as much as we're letting the money ride on the Regolith. Now, ping is a bit more. Mind you, Archives is the mark here. Card on the top, any axis could be it. And that one is it. So much aggression there. Playing out pretty well. Again, there's not a lot of agendas left in the deck. I think Cody's going to give that a look over. But there were so many turns where Sauce was like legitimately straight risking it to the punishment you might expect, as much as it might not be in hand. And taking those outs there. I don't know if it's necessary, but like that aggression did pay off in this game for sure. So well played to both players.
It's honestly a rare misplay. Yeah, it's a rare misplay for Sauce. Usually that gameplay is quite clean. Respecting that sort of thing. So I'm surprised when I saw them go under 8 credits, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be pretty difficult. Now, I'm not sure if those players are doing a 2-for-1. I don't think they are. So we're probably going to see the other side of that table. We'll just wait for a second to see if that table spins up. If it's the case, it looks like it is.
There it is.
Perfect. So Cody has now lost 2 matches only today, which is a really good spot to be in. We're going to see, oh, the subtypes are back. Okay. Not sure where those went or came to. And we saw Sauce playing a really cool list too. This is the Drago one, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
So for those who didn't watch, I think it was a round ago, we saw a really cool play in which Sauce installed double advance a card on the table. That was something that the runner could have got into. And then on their turn, they rezzed Reaper function to do 2 net damage. They double advanced the Drago, rezzed it, cracked it twice to eat through a no free lunch, and then fired and ended the line. And it was absolutely fantastic way to play around all the tech cards and kind of get the runner out of nowhere for sure. Now, Sauce took a mulligan, yet still opened with the Spin Doctor. Sometimes that can mean it's pretty ugly. We're icing up HQ. A lot of times R&D is what you ice up first into Padma. Maybe they drew into a lot. Again, Spin Doctor can only filter so much, and Dirty Laundry is a really nice on-tempo way to force that Spin Doctor shuffle, as much as you don't want to laundry the spin himself. 2 clicks left on 8 for Mentor. I think Cody's on all 3, just valuing those like sort of fundamentals of economy here on the top. Accessing last click is a bit risky to snare tomorrow's headline, but I don't know, maybe a snare would have been disastrous there, but we'll take some risks for sure if we're playing Netrunner. No equitable turn 1 agendas on R&D. Okay. That's
Look, we love a little banter, little table banter.
A bit salty. No, it'll be fine. Now, we've seen not this Padma list, but obviously these sorts of Padma lists, and the longer the game goes, the worse things generally get for you, unless you can attack in a way that's not about the efficiency of ice. because this deck breaks ice really, really, really cheaply. But NBN is admittedly the faction that can make ice that kind of gets you from different angles. Toll Booth, Mesta Chesvo, Funhouse obviously is incredibly important. Even just ping can be super important for one of the cheaper ice in the entire format. So we'll see how Cody plays around that, because you have to set up your engine, you have to get accesses, but all at the same time is respecting those traps on the table. Like server 2 could be an agenda. Like the way that Sauce has been playing, I would not be surprised. Server 2, we're hitting it. It's a Gaslight. You generally want to bring that down. It's like wild Gaslight. If that fires just to get a hedge fund, right? Like it's I guess either way it goes, either they pay 2 or you gain 4. Like a pseudo 6 credit swing for something that drew you a card is pretty good, as much as that math is probably a bit inaccurate, but definitely a card you need to bring down when you do see it.
It's such a
Reminds me
fun
of
card. Sorry, go.
I was gonna say it reminds me of that old Operation Tudor that was out of Wayland.
Salting Visit?
Forgotten the name of it. Yes. Oh my god, yeah.
Very
The fact that it's
fundamental
just like
card. Yeah.
just grab whatever you want in like no conditions. Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and still like Gaslight being a trashable you have to put on the table seems like the more powerful card, right? Because you don't spend a double for it, and then you can pick at start a turn what you want on the table, and any deck that wants to install things to draw really likes that.
2 daily business shows. Oh my god. So that how that works is they draw the 3 cards, right?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
they put 2 in the bottom. Yeah.
Or like if you crack a Spin Doctor on the runner's turn and you end up drawing, what is it, 4 bottom 2? Pretty good. So we'll see if Cody like cracks those Fermenters early to deal with the board. A lot of the like Padma decks are playing like Parisha, as much as it's kind of hard to find from the deck unless you get your endurance down and then into the depth. So it requires a bit of work, but we're going to start checking the table a bit. Pad Campaign is in server 6, a slow economy over time. Server 5 is well unknown, and you're going to have to like, DBS is obviously quite powerful, giving full card draw, filtering. It's very, very, very useful, but it's worth noting that, mind you, double Pad Campaign, is that Near Earth Hub does draw consistently in the middle of their turn. So while the Daily Business Show might control the mandatory draw, it does not control the draw that we just got off server 7. So while it might seem like with double Daily Business Show running HQ is useless, it's not entirely. I do still think you might find an agenda in there after a couple turns.
When I've been playing NEH decks, particularly in startup, I find it's a card that runners tend to underestimate the power of. And admittedly, like four credits is a lot. You need to know the right time to trash it, but the right time to trash it is usually sooner rather than later.
Whoa, this is a well-timed ping here, right? With only 1 credit to their name, Cody has to probably use a no free lunch here. And obviously accessing on low credits is a bit easier. Oh, we're just bouncing, of course. And yeah, you have to use a no free lunch there. That's the awkwardness. If Cody had 1 more credit, again, these no free lunches are the respect against things like Drago or Public Trail. And I don't know if Cody expects both of these in this deck. I think at least one of them is for sure. But yeah, unfortunately, they're having to use a no free lunch instead of clearing the tag. Robs you of the opportunity to do something cool during their turn. Speaking of during their turn, just a Beal on the table. Sauce getting good reads on when they can just put something on the table without any ice. Endurance be damned.
I think people get very comfortable when no free lunch is on the table. They're like, oh yeah, if I take a tag for whatever reason, like I can just run with 1 credit and it's no problem. But you know,
yeah,
it's a good way to lose a bunch of no free lunches that could have saved you the game later down the line. So yeah,
we'll try and keep in mind how impactful that is. Again, we see a Sauce score through a single, or sorry, kill through a single no free lunch. Double would probably be an issue. Freedom of information, though, we're trading that. HQ access, again, no res on 2 credits. This might be a deep dive. It looks like the play pattern to expect that 3 cards in archives. We're going through that ping. It's also very much worth noting that deep dive shuffles the deck. So if you're expecting Daily Business Show to bottom all the agendas, this is a nice way. Snare, not being able to fire that. Archives is definitely a deep dive this turn. 3 face downs finds a headline. So if you want a deep dive here, you're going to have to pop your no free lunch. And it looks like we're going to go for it. That's it. Game. Send a message. 1 of in the deck, maybe.
Wow.
Amazing.
Absolutely fast trade there. Cody just throwing it in onto the deep dive there. Had 2 points there, or sorry, 2 agendas up to 5 points, but it's harder for Padma to get that click back. We're not seeing anybody play the Synth Clan. Cody say it seems like you were flooded. Yeah, I honestly don't know how bad it was with double cast. Maybe you're okay. I got no game
That's
turn 2
wild.
double fermenter NFL. Yeah, that's gonna be quite difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you would hope that 2 DBS would definitely help you like tutor to what you need, but I guess if you're not drawing ice, you're not drawing ice. So
Yeah.
fair enough, but it happens.
Cool. Yeah, fingers crossed both sneak in. Well played to both players. Again, they're definitely going to be at the
Mhm.
toppest of tables. We'll see if they make the top 4. I'd be excited to see either of those players in the top cut. The stuff they do is quite cool. Do you want to jump into? Do you want to call a table here? I
I
think
would have to look.
2 and 3. Generally, the higher they are on the list means the fresher they are. So I think we should keep that in mind.
Of course.
That's a good point.
I want to see something that we might have missed. Like you were talking about the loop game. How about table 8 for Hideyoshi and Galeha?
Yeah, let's do it.
They've played with Hideyoshi before.
Right on. Okay, cool. So we're in the middle of one. It looks like somebody did a sneaky Regenesis. Is it just me, or does Regenesis
Oh.
add to send a message to the right side of the square area? It treats it as a special agenda.
I think you're
I think
right.
it's only because.
I think
Does it?
otherwise agendas stack, right? Like, is that a thing it does to show you what happened? Now, mind you,
Yeah, maybe.
this is an HQ run, and the Nanocivic is going to trigger, revealing a Bathonimus face down in archives. It's kind of what you expect there. So that's just going to be 3 net damage. It doesn't matter what you've hit, and we hit an Archer from HQ. I've heard Archers showing up in these Restoring Humanity decks because they can often score one more 1-pointer than needs. Nanocivic, though, gonna get trashed, and this is the first time we've seen Lou today, and Lou gets a card and a credit when you trash stuff, so that just kind of pushes you forward. As much as you want to trash stuff anyways, those imps are going to help. We have 3 imps on the table. It's hard to get those into the bin now. I guess you have to install a program, maybe Katurga them back out, but definitely one of the most powerful Lou cards to get pressure as soon as turn 1. Of course, don't agendas spread up to take the entire space? I honestly don't know. I guess we'll find out. Maybe I'm making something up here. Now, server 3 is
I
double
hate that all
advance.
my. Oh, sorry. Continue.
No. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I just let my brainworms run a little wild when it comes to this, like running commentary and stuff, because like I just see something in art and I'm just like, I want to talk about it. But there's obviously a game going on.
It's an exciting part of this game, right?
I just can't help myself. It's so much like flavor. It's so fun to just like find stories.
You know, this set specifically, I think the whole what's it
Definitely.
called, Boreal Cycle, in terms of flavors, like I think one of my favorites by a mile. It's quite good.
Absolutely.
Anyway, please double advance in server 3.
Yeah, what is that? They just purge. That clears out the imp. It resets the fermenter again, sometimes going in a bit deeper, as much as a cookbook might reset some of this stuff at some point. This is not a format where the imps go infinite. In standard, there's actually a lot of ways to move counters back to your imp. And those are very powerful engines, but this is at least a bit more limited. Botulus coming down in turns with the Vampire Nasa. That's a hard card to Botulus, but you know, it does come in with 2 counters, at least with the cookbook. Wake as well coming down, trashing a fermenter due to meat damage. That actually might be a lot of money for a deck that's probably going to have a limited economy going forward, considering 7 cards in the stack. And we're looking at 1 liberated in the bin, 2 more fermenters. So that was the last fermenter. It's probably liberated or that's it. Now,
I find whenever I import imp into Shaper and stuff like that, I want to get imps back so I can keep using them, especially if I have a lot of them in my deck. And I'm just wondering if Loop has brought in anything to be able to recur these imps.
it's like hard in
Like,
the format. I think it's like Katurga, test run, and then retrieval run, which is a bit expensive, but seems okay.
Yeah. Like
Katurga's really good. I think Katurga's an amazing card.
There's no embezzle. Like there's nothing to deal with these like big scary operations, like hitting a bionic labor or something like that. Like imp is the only way right now.
You can play what's it called, carnivore, which we're not going to see that, mind you. I think endurance Lou is probably like the strong way, the more consistent way to play Lou. We haven't really talked about this, but like the Anarch Breaker Suite has a lot of flaws in it that like other factions are more able to fix, I think, easily. Things like Shapers that can player this with very easily and consistently with Turbine is a very important thing. So generally you fall back on endurance and Anarch.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about Regolith before, and yeah, like I feel like Tax Crim, which used to be something that was quite big, especially with like diversion of funds and account siphon before that, and those types of gameplay kind of like shut down a little bit by these like very easy ways for the cops to earn money. Like you can't keep them absolutely broke. Like you can tread lightly, those sorts of things, pan weave. You know, it's still taxing, but finding a consistent game plan around it is so hard.
For sure.
Like, yeah, it's wild to see these like these gameplay styles that have like they've got mechanics there, like the trash mechanic, I guess, out of Anarch, and you know, but then to fill the gaps, you're just like, okay, well, I want to have some tax, so I might include like a Xanadu or something weird, right?
Yeah.
Pan weave that synergizes with the tremolo, but yeah, like just not having that extra support, I suppose. Having to rely on other things, and just having the tax as like a little benefit on the side.
That's a spin doctor. That has to be mitosis, right?
Yeah, there's no other way to get. There's no other way to get counters on it, right?
Yeah. So that
cheating.
means
You can do it by cheating. That's the other way.
How is that? Sorry.
Cheating. You can do it by cheating.
Yeah, right.
Oh, oh my god, so easy.
Underplayed strategy. It's very, very powerful.
I wonder, that means there's a mitosis shuffled back in with the spin doctor because it's not accounted for. At this point, like there's 12 cards left in R&D, but there's only 4 cards left in the stack, and snares we've only seen 1. So maybe at some point there's some fear here. Again, server 2. Sansan is the threat. Again, a single Sansan can close the game out, considering the way that Regenesis works. Even Moonpool, we see 1 removed from game. That could be an angle of attack. But I think this turn, Galehar has access to R&D, because the Vampire Nasa, you don't need to break all subroutines, but you can. I just don't know how you send it R&D. Maybe you just see 2 with Botchless, or sorry, with a Wake Implant, and that's good enough. Wow, actually, like the Blood of the Waters get like super meaningful even when Galehar has only like 2 cards in hand, let alone like 4 cards left in the whole deck. Like eventually, there's going to be there's anemones in this list. Like there must be, right? Like you're just going to run out of cards.
I'm just trying to figure out like how they're gonna close this out. Like I don't know. The endurance is scary.
Yeah.
Like, what can you res?
I think here you probably have to run HQ to get some Wake Implant charges and then like run R&D. I think flipping Archives is actually really good because it largely turns off the Regenesis threat, and then also Nanocivic and Server 2 doesn't matter as much as like a half run or Anemone can turn it back on, and you have to watch out if you are going to contest on res dice. But flipping cards and Archives, like I do think in a lot of games, if that's all you do against Restoring Humanity, your win rate goes up pretty consistently, even if you never run the remote server. They're letting Seribna fire. So they lost 2 cards. Steelskin drawing the last 2 cards, but now Snare is always lethal. Spin Doctor getting shuffled. Now, you want to get cards back in R&D before you run R&D. Also quite important if there are agendas you're assuming. So it looks like 2 face downs. And we're going to see in there, it's an Archer and an Anoetic. So now you can't run double Anemone. You can't hit a Snare. And yet you still need to steal about 2 more agendas at least if you get lucky on the send a message, which I think the deck is running a full complement of.
Oh.
I wonder if they were meant to break all the subs.
I think that's definitely too late if they did mean to.
Yeah, I think they just didn't realize they don't have a stack anymore. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's it. Yeah. Unsmiling has 3 subroutines now. The only way to break it, is the endurance. And so you're going to have to use a lot of charges, mind you. So we're just sending it HQ again. A single snare will do it as much as Hideyoshi has 11 credits. You only need 4 for snare. But here we might just see a yellow run last click on R&D because you just can't really interact with Anemone on the remote server. So we'll see here. 2 snares left is the question. Again, some of these decks are not running a full set of snares. They're just running 1 or 2, just like to, to send the message. So see how much respect. Again, you just can't have respect. You need to run centrals if you're not running the remote server. And unfortunately, the snares just might be there. Longevity is a great start there. 3-2 from hand. Maybe there's a Sansan in server 2. Maybe that was the play on the upcoming turn. But I think Galehar can just send 3 on R&D and just hope.
Yeah, I was going to say the next run has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could go on HQ for 1 more to see deeper with Wake. Like There's a bit of a risk, but like, I don't know. I don't think you can win against Snare anyways. I think you just have to see as many cards as you can and just hope. All right.
If I was Hideyoshi, I would be so sad if HQ is 50-50 agenda and Snare.
Yeah. Half run. You don't have to pay one. It is botchless as much as this ice has 2 types. Again, Buzzsaw is the best you can ask for. And we can see again, Waken Plant allows you to access additional cards up to 3. So we're going to see 3, up to 3 additional. Excuse me. First card. Nothing,
Unseen.
nothing.
Unseen. Oh my god.
And that's it. They found it. They needed that send a message. There's probably 2 more in the list. There's probably Snares for sure. Anemones with the last 2 possible cards that make safe running into Anemones. They find the send a message on that last run there. That was rough, they say. Well played. Again, that could have been the win in the remote server. Specifically if there's, I don't know what you're looking for. I guess an Anoetic, but great game. Called for both players. Really well done, Gelhar, finding the line there.
Amazing.
To get out.
Yeah, hitting the 3-pointer on the very last access.
Yeah,
Wow.
you need to. You definitely need to. 2 more cards than they needed, Sanjay says exactly. You want to play card perfect. If you don't lose every single card for damage, like, did you even need those cards?
Absolutely.
I was actually like kind of curious if like the last 2 cards in the runner's hand was like a finality and something else, and like doing this huge push and just like, you know, roll the dice. But yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like,
So
I think that's one of the big things coloring Anarch in startup is that multi-access for them is a bit difficult thing. I think finality is obviously like the best thing, and you're going to see Waken Plants, but like it's hard to play twinning. Stargate has rotated, which has kind of been like the standard. So Anarch multi-access, I think, is like the least consistent thing, which is kind of cool to see how they patch it together. As much as like imping stuff kind of counts.
okay, so the reverse side is Asa versus Pravdivast.
Yeah, Prav. Let's see Prav.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Which table is this?
It's a table 8. I think it's whatever the top table is, like numerically or in terms of time.
I could have just read that with my eyes. Thank you.
I actually love watching Pravdivast play. It's so like, it's bluffy in a weird way.
Yeah.
And it makes the runner go like, okay, do I want to run? You know, which is probably maybe some reverse pressure against Asa, who is just like putting so much tempo on the co-op. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a good match.
I'm like really excited about the Pravdivast ability. I do think it's one of the IDs that their game plan has changed a fair bit since rotation, losing things like Bologna is obviously good. Cat is really good, but my favorite card was NAPD Cordon, which was a nice way to make those agendas really difficult to steal. But now you're going to go in a different direction. I think you're more likely to see Cheka Scions, maybe you see Ice Walls and Trickleites, but it's probably going to be more trap related. That's a ESA inside job, getting core damage off the top 2 off of just the top of R&D is how good is HQ, but inside job is a lot of influence. So I think you're excited to see that one hit the pin.
The question here is, what kind of Prav are we seeing? Are we seeing something with seamless launch that's hoping to, for example, put a gaslight on the table and grab it, or put that extra counter on the agenda when they run the gaslight? Or are we seeing something with checked scions and other traps? There are a lot of different options here.
I think
it's always tempted to carry at least one end of the line.
Yeah.
Like just one, just one.
Yeah, if you have a gaslight, right? Like, what does it really cost you?
Yeah.
I do also think I've seen like some Pravdivos that are just running like triple Pharaohs, as wild as that is, and building servers that actually like even Endurance can struggle with. As much as like Endurance also pays into Pravdivos. Like you get a power counter, I get an advancement. Which one's worth more? You kind of have to figure it out yourself. All right.
I'm excited to find out.
Pretty standard opening. Getting the Spin Doctor down is actually a real big deal for us. As much as we've not seen anyone light the fire on the table, one of my favorite ways to contest every single Spin Doctor in existence. It's just like a very annoying card to get iced up because you're not really excited to do anything that sabotages when they can fix it pretty trivially with the Spin Doctor that's already there. So you generally want to set up other parts of your game plan or figure out how to contest the dock.
It's absolutely the right play, in my opinion. Far too few people are putting ice in front of their Spin Doctors versus ESA.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good draw. As much as we had to click for 3 to get it down, Liberty counts as like kind of the best case scenario of things to do that aren't sabotaged. Get your money up. Getting card draw down, obviously very important as well, because you're Anarch. You generally don't have consistency. You just kind of need to mash your way through that next 36 cards. Hopefully you have a
I
Nuka.
don't know if I like it as a last click play though, because now they're on 0 credits, and nothing would hurt more than a public trail into a trash resource.
Oh yeah, but they have to run for that, right? So maybe
Yeah.
in the next turn,
Right,
you're
of
right.
course, of course.
I think in
I
some
completely
ways,
missed it.
again, not that you expect it to, like even having a liberated counts around is like a nice way to duck sometimes. I do think this is the one ID that's more likely to play also artificial crypto crash, just because 4-2s are kind of slick.
Mm.
So offshoring your accounts is like a nice way to get it done.
I do not even consider the requirement to run. I don't think I ever do.
We're just running every turn, huh? I like that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grim.
Crim. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 clicks to Galhar on the top. Now this is where it gets ugly too. It's like you kind of want your remote server to do something, but it's also the remote server that's keeping the sabotage at bay with the spin doctor. So it's like, I don't know, the runners in this kind of like waiting game, like, they'll trash your spin doctor before. It's like when they have a regolith in the remote server, it's like at this point, you know, they'll finish it and then I don't have to run it as much as maybe that ship has sailed a bit.
Oh my goodness. I never knew, like, even if I'm holding the pinhole threading or something to go and deal with it, I'm
Always,
just like,
always send it. Just
do I really
always.
want to though? Yeah. Like that is the right answer, but at the same time, I hate it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think if you expect them to be on like Managarm or Anoetic or some upgrade that you can't deal with, like Zato City Grid, then maybe not. But I don't know. So many games in Startup Corps like are really scrambling to get as every credit they can get to. All right, upgrade Server 1. So Vladisibirsk is like the obvious inclusion. Otherwise, like we've seen a Maze. I don't know what else we expect. Sands and City Grid waiting there is also pretty reasonable. But we have Augustina, not a card you see all the time. And in terms of the viruses in Startup, it's generally 3 Botulus, 3 Fermenter, usually end of list. But that's like just good enough for, you know, as many slots in the deck Augustina takes up. So we'll see if this over time, again, the longer the game goes, that's just more guaranteed sabotage.
It does make you give in to the temptation to start putting imp in your deck and
Yeah,
other viruses too.
that's totally true. And maybe with just Matryoshka being your breaker suite, maybe you have more influence, or sorry, more MU for like imp and like even leech. I don't know how good that is with Matryoshka, but like sabotage 1, I'll take it. Galhar taking their time on his turns. Try this figured up. Okay, there goes the spin doctor, not even being used to put cards back into the deck. Now, that's actually a very interesting consideration. Like getting cards back into your deck means there's more things that you can sabotage that are not agendas, but also later on you can recur the spin doctor when it's more important, when it recurs something. So it's not the most easy decision. Again, we'll figure out what those face down cards are at some point, but this could be an agenda as much as sometimes the 4-2s require the runner to make a run if you don't hold Seamless in your hand. Hideyoshi drawing up 7 hand size with the Marrow. Mind you, there's text on this that JNet remembers for you, which is quite handy if you're playing a sabotage deck. And we're going to start with the running hot there. Again, first time spin doctor's down, we're going to trade a card for a card, gain a bunch of clicks on the way, and force the sabotage. Let's see where it comes from. It looks like 2 from the top of R&D, just sending it off the top of R&D. Again, what's an HQ? Do we have combo pieces? Do we have fast advance? Because I always feel like I can get rid of 1 card from HQ and not have to take this risk.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is one of my favorite cards, Asmund Pidlat. Great in a virus deck as well. And we can see that they put the time bomb on it. That's a weapon, which is one of the things Asmund can go and fetch as a tutoring card. You can then put one of these into your hand at the start of your turn and play it as and when you will. Or if your hand's feeling a bit full, you can just leave them there, as I have done from time to time. Very excited to see this card.
It looks like we got a free advancement, mind you, on that archives check, seeing nothing but a second spin doctor. We're going to start with the off-world, still seamless slinging that. We didn't need to, but that means Galhar has a click here to push their game plan forward, which is pretty valuable. But yeah, Pula works well with Augustina. Again, you get that card into your hand as much as you spend 2 influence, and that means that you can Augustina every single turn. Time bomb, mind you, also quite good as a weapon. But we'll see, Galhar just might push out again. We're not seeing a lot of breakers, let alone economy here. And there are risks. We've seen a retribution, so you're pretty sure public trail is in here. But I think the best case is 2 spin doctors are in the bin. You love to see that. So what's the upgrade here? Vlad Grid is something you can get advancements on any turn if you have nothing else that matters. That's always really nice. And then from there, you can score out 4 2s even from hand. That's a very rare thing in Netrunner.
They're being so restrained about not running, not giving those free advancement counters.
Yeah. It's like,
wild.
it's I guess out of anyone, Essa can like do the most, damage without having to run. So maybe you're feeling good about that, but you do have to check. You do have to get your time bomb down. So at this point, it's like sometimes you just don't want to advance the agenda in server 1 because you think you can get it without spending, a risk on it. But then what else are you doing for the rest of your turn? So sometimes Prob Devos forces you to do kind of ugly things in the name of like full value or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, sabotage is kind of like pseudo access, right? So
Yeah.
you're getting accesses. It's just kind of the long way around, I guess. The long way.
Server
Right.
2, mind you, you can put advancement on this before it's accessed. So Cyan will give you 2 tags.
True.
But as a Gaslight coming down for 2, we advanced the upgrade in server 1. So almost definitely, what's it called? Vladislavsky City Grid, which needs 2 advancements to do anything. But with seamless launch, that threshold can change as much as you want to get to even numbers, not odd numbers.
Yeah, like Gelhar has been quite patient as well. Like not tempted to advance stuff on their own and just like waiting for eventually the pressure to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna run and give advance encounters, and the mechanics work. So it's good. It's good to see they're both playing very like careful games.
Whoa! Advance on the Vlad, shipment on the agenda. That's a 5-3 or a 5-2. No, a 5-3. I'm trying to say it's a Beal, but that is 5 points. That's super important. I think the worst case here is if Gelhar has another seamless in their hand, they can install a 3-2. He can seamless the Vlad grid and score that out. It could be over next turn as long as you have the 3rd seamless, which I don't know. That can be difficult, of course. I think Hideyoshi needs to put the heat on, needs to generate some amount of accesses, because if you do, and admittedly sometimes running feels bad because you're turning on the Vlad grid, but this is where you need to get as much disruption or start threatening finalities and Chastushkas, because you probably need to see a lot of cards over the next real turns real quickly. Next turn, something will probably be in server 1. Running hot's a good start. Get that sabotage, just pay attention to where Gelhar throws the cards out from. Oh, they haven't decided yet. I think Hideyoshi jumped the gun here. Wait, did they sabotage? Yeah, 1 from HQ, 1 from RD. Excuse me, they did not jump the gun. It was... Wait, what's happening? Oh, they trashed Time Bomb. Sorry, I thought Time Bomb went off. Okay, no, that makes sense. Messagesso here on HQ. Relevant text. Not an advancement on this. I feel like the advancements are probably going to go on the Vlad grid, but this you go through for 4 credits, which is still really quite good with Matryoshka. What are you hoping to see here?
I think you want to get the agendas out of HQ before they go.
Yeah.
Into server 1.
Straight into server 1.
What am I hoping to see?
Yeah.
The thing that wins me the game. Thank you.
Ice all from HQ. Again, that on its own is like a good enough piece of ice. If you only have 2 nesting dolls, mind you, one of them is the breaker, the other's just holding them. Just had an end the run is like a good enough way to buy yourself that turn away from the panic finality. Time bomb,
Plus,
mind you.
early on, it's easy to advance and get stronger.
Yeah.
You get it to full strength and it starts challenging the cleaver.
Yeah, we'll see at
Though
that
that is a lot of advancement tokens.
I think most of the Essa decks that we've been seeing are not actually playing like conventional breaker suites. It's like Matryoshka, Mayfly, and then maybe a Noom if they like have meta respect.
Botulus.
Yeah, Botulus, yeah, of course, is huge. And you're going to see 3 of them in the Augustina list. But Galhar could have it here. They just need the final seamless and a 3-2. So that's asking for a lot in a hand that we know one of the 3 cards already.
I would be tempted to run archives here. There are 3 accesses sitting there, and the longer you leave this, the more time there is for them to draw a oh gosh.
They don't need seamless. They just have it.
3-2, yeah.
That pattern is so easy. You just advance it once, install the agenda, advance agenda, move it over. How have I not seen that happen before? That was a 1 and 2 in HQ to hit the tomorrow's headline. Gelhar just stringing it into the remote server as quick as they can. Really well played, and not having to deal with what's eventually going to be a lot of sabotage the longer the game goes on. Time bomb ticking, Augustina at work. Well played to both players. It looks like Gelhar's going to get both of those games, and very squeaky the first one. The second one feels a fair bit like they were in control, but well played to both.
I've seen this. Sorry, you gone.
Sorry. Oh, I was just going to quickly say, like, if they hadn't have run last turn on HQ, then the Vasitabas wouldn't have the 1 advancement token on it, so they couldn't have gone away with that.
Yeah, it's hard to play around it, right? Like, you're trying to win without running. Like, it's going to happen at some point. But, you're 100% that's correct, right? Like, You sometimes just hate looking at the results. And that being said, it was a 50-50 to steal the agenda from HQ, which, that's the thing you need, right?
What were you going to say, Mub?
Like I say, I've actually played with this. I think it's this deck quite a lot, and it's most of the games it wins are rushy, but it can do kind of glacier, dragged out, grind the runner down type stuff as well. So it's very hard to play against. Fair play to Hideyoshi. I think they did the best they could.
Cool. Real quick, I think I'm on table 4. It's Zenobius versus Mondegreen. If y'all want to jump in, it looks like we're pretty
sure
new
thing.
into it. So we're just turn 3.
Nice. Love to see the full game play out.
All right. Restoring Humanity, probably 44 cards. If you do the math real quick, 1 face down in Archives is just enough value for you. And on the other side, Zaya coming down with that Endurance real early. We saw legwork just last turn. I don't know if it hit the Regenesis on that turn, but Centrals are wide open here, and Zaya gets good value from that. We'll see. Again, I think most of the Restoring Humanities we've seen have been Sand City Grid lists, a bit of fast demands, that Regenesis trick. But hey, Jailbreak HQ, you love to see it as a way to get through your deck, let alone get some credits and accesses. Nana Civic trashed for 3. Drawing up. Double credit there. Mondegreen. They have server 2 and 1 face down in Archives. Do you check it with Endurance? I feel like you're at the cusp. I think you'd rather flip 2 cards than just 1, but I think, again, it's such an important thing to do. It's just with HQ open, I feel like you kind of have your target painted for you already. Speaking of...
And the last time we saw our Ducklands Pass run HQ.
Yeah. The easiest way to find the snares, let alone the anemone, can make it more likely when you just have more snares in there. So this is really interesting too, because this is later on in the turn, and Mondegreen doesn't have to fire this. This could just be an endurance tax. But if you do throw out an agenda, and that makes, server 2 actually quite interesting, because now there are face down cards more than you expected it to be. We're taking 3 damage there. Wait, we just went off snare.
Yeah, like surely you jack out at this point.
Oh, I think you break that with endurance, right?
Yeah. But having not done so, I would jack out.
I always forget about the snare. Oh, you can jack out. You can do it. We'll see again. You can always jack out before the run's successful, or you can be brave C2, gain 2, get a counter. Like, there's reasons on both sides, but losing the snare on turn 4 is unforced. Like, you can just die to snare. I just don't know if you want to find yourself in a situation where that's...
So here's a read. If they didn't fire the enemy,
yep.
They don't have a snare in hand, right? Because they would want to reduce the cards in the hand, so the chance of double accessing and hitting a snare is much higher.
Yeah, it was 50% to hit a snare there if they have 1 in what became 4 cards. So like pretty good odds.
Yeah.
I would not bet against those.
GNK is wild. Oh my god.
Mondegreen's drawing up. Server 2, we don't know what it is. Again, a lot of times the Sand just goes down there. Like, you can pay 5 if you want. No big deal. So all we're trying to do here, if we can read the board correctly, is get a big agenda in Archives. Hope, again, maybe Hansei will get you there, but hope the runner doesn't check it with their endurance. And then fast events out for 8 credits. The Regenesis. Now, there's only 2 more Regenesis, and stealing them is almost just as good as stealing the 3-pointers, since this deck doesn't really have a good way to score those out in a remote. Leech is cute. Better reason to check Archives. It looks like we're going to go get the flip. Again, if you call this turn right and you just find an ugly send a message in there, it's the world of difference. Unfortunately, nothing. 2 Nana Civics gone.
The chances you find a send a message in Archives.
It would be nice, right? Like, you have to set this up somehow.
I think it's worth trying anyway, because you don't want a load of face down cards in Archives, because then the moment an Nana Civic lands there, you can't ever run it.
Yeah.
True.
Now, Longevity is the only 3/2 in the list. Paying a lot of money for that. You get the effect on Longevity, which allows you to trash and recur cards. Sometimes you just want to keep a trash card in Archives because of, Restoring Humanity. But here we're probably going to see shuffled back double Nana Civic, maybe Nana Civic and money. But we can pull up to 3 back, right? It doesn't care how many you trash. Yeah, just 3 comes back. So it looks like double grid and the ice, not so much the money. But we're getting 1 credit at the end of the turn because of the Restoring Humanity text. So the question is, do you think they have a Regenesis into an agenda next turn? Because like that face down could be obviously a send a message, could be a blood in the water. There could be some big plays here.
Oh my god, they got revolver. Let's go.
You don't see a lot of this one. I think this one's actually quite good. Ooh, another anemone here. Potentially another lethal if you're going to connect with the snare. We lose double inside job from HQ. Or sorry, from the hand, from grip. So now if you access a snare with exactly 4 credits Mondegreen, they're threatening it out. So firstly, you probably want to break that. I reckon you want to spend a leech and a bullet. Strength 1, that's good.
Yep.
You save yourself 2 credits. That's actually a pretty well positioned leech counter. But I don't know if you take this access here, jacking out Nopius, respecting snares. I don't know if that's stream pressure or not, but like you never want to die to snare on stream. Doesn't feel good.
If only we had a choice.
Server 3, let's see a spin doctor here. There you go. Drawing 2. This guy has so much control about how safely you can do the restoring humanity regenesis trick. So like this guy has to come down. The longer you leave him, the more likely you are to run into like a nanocivic issue or, you know, the regenesis, of course. On top of that, Sansan, which is not getting contested as much as 4 credits or, excuse me, 5 credits, which you only have 4 to trash, seems quite important. Nopius just refilling their hand. Again, Criminal doesn't have much burst draw. I think they don't have any card draw at all in Startup, right?
I think you're right.
Besides
I think they have
Zenith.
to go out of action for... Yeah, Zenith. Zenith's the one exception.
Yeah. That's really difficult compared to like Shaper that has like every 1 in 3 cards says card draw on it. All right, Hansei Hedge.
They stopped making the soda that I like, and I'm still mad about it.
Bring back the
blueberry
original
diesel.
flavor, yeah.
Yeah.
I love the little bit of world building on there that like the word blueberry has been trademarked in the future. Like somebody owns the patent.
Oh yeah.
Blueberries.
Absolutely.
Come on, they're drawing up again. If they just had the Regenesis here, we'd see it. 2 cards in archives. There's going to be a fair bit more after this, but Server 2, again, we've sometimes seen upgrades there. It protects the sand density grid, but I do think the big thing here, and you saw a lot of restoring humanities, it looks a bit strange if you're not familiar with the play pattern. They'll double ice archives, right? Seems weird, but why are they doing that? Because they need to keep cards face down in archives for a whole turn. I think best case scenario here, Server 2 is Anoetic. I guess that's a nice way to get your Sansan at the same time, but Nopius has not looked like they want to contest the Sansan City Grid, which if you ask me, if they keep archives flipped, might not be necessary, but otherwise that is the way that this deck looks to win out. We haven't seen them score agendas on the table. We've seen them fast advance every restoring humanity we've seen today. Now they're drawing up.
It's hard, right? Like Crim Econ as well. Also kind of awkward at the moment. Like it's all very run based, and so when you get into this situation where it's all just like 1 ice and they're all just kind of sort of annoying, and you don't have your suite set up, it is like earning money sucks.
Yeah, you're hoping.
Drawing sucks.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
when it's rolling, but you're right, especially if you're in that awkward spot. Like you have to get some expensive accesses. Like I don't know if you bullet that or you endurance that. You do get your Docklands, your Zaya, your Dirty Laundry. Like it's good, but you're taking risks on too with those accesses. Sure Gamble, at least we're up on 11. Mondegreen could have it here.
Yeah, it feels awful to have to trash the Tencent yourself and just like
Yeah. And you see another one in HQ too, so like it's going to replace itself, but I do think there's
Definitely.
a chance Mondegreen is in some sort of waiting room where we're just trying to find the piece here. Maybe Spin Doctor to draw again. Stealing Regenesis early is good enough as much as it's only 1 point because the amount of tricks they have left, there's only 2 more. So we'll see here again. It's worth noting that you can only Regenesis if no card has been added to archives this turn. And specifically Spin Doctor does not add to archives or removes from a game. So you can actually still like trick over it if you need to. You don't want to overinstall the Spin Doctor. That will stop you in your tracks. You need to actually use the Spin Doctor, which like last Spin Doctor for what it's worth. It's kind of interesting.
I've accidentally played a hedge fund before trying to score out a Regenesis. And yeah, because the operation goes to the graveyard.
Yeah.
Graveyard? Archives.
I've like subliminal messaging. I'd be like, oh, I'll get this in before I score out so I can play
right,
it. And
right?
then you're like smashing that button on JNet trying to figure out why it's not working.
Nope. Moonpool works surprisingly well because you can fire it at the end of the runner's turn before your turn begins. So even though cards do go into archives, you can move some counters around.
That's interesting. I never even thought about that.
Now Wake, we're charging HQ. That's good value here. Hitting a snare though. We're down to no cards. That's a double access. The second one, if that's a snare, that's it. Double snare.
Oh,
Double
no.
snare.
Oh no, 6 damage on a single run is not what you're expecting at all. There's a massive amount of drop from Spin Doctor, but double snare is the only permutation there that takes you out. But unfortunately, Nopius managed to find it again. Maybe that's streaming curse, but like, oh no, I don't think that's a reasonable thing to play around. I think you just hope that doesn't happen.
After they were so careful on the previous runs, it seems really unfair.
So careful to the snares. I hope you can see my
Honest,
hand
the
during the
moment they stepped out of
replay.
line.
Oh man, it looks like they were in there forever. If you listen to Mondegree, and then they're just constantly dodging snares. So eventually they'll do kind of catch up to you. All right.
Yeah, the Duckland's Pass is like really scary in this matchup. You really do have to consider before you run, can you take 6 if they have the money to fire 2 snares?
Yeah.
I think if you're not Zaya, there's a good chance that you just throw your multi-access in the bin against a lot of Jinteki matchups. But obviously, as Zaya, that's also your econ.
Yeah, definitely. You'll notice they were using a Dirty Laundry, which is again more run econ. So trap decks always the bane of criminal existence.
Good game to both players. I don't know how this changes some standings,
Yeah.
but I think both of these players were probably somewhere in the middle of the pack. I reckon that's a proper game too. I don't know if they 2-for-1, but there's a chance we might see more of the players. I think that's the end of it. I think that's the end of round 4.
That's good.
That might be the final game. Okay. So what we're
Oh
going
my
to do
gosh.
is we're going to jump back to Cobra. We can refresh this really quick to see if anything. Okay, so it looks like those players were table 4. So that's actually a really important result to see how that goes. It looks like we might have one player who is clearly the top cut. So there was a 2-for-1 on table 6 as well. So we're going to have a bunch of players that are quite close because table 1 and table 3 both split. So table 4 results are the only one we're going to miss. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to throw to a break. Again, we have the finals coming up right now. We don't know if it's going to be a top 3 or top 4. It largely just depends on how many players, if there's like an even break. I think we're not going to have an even break, so we're going to get a top 4. Again, top 4 is single-sided, double elimination. So the rounds are going to be a bit faster. They're going to be about 35 minutes, but we have a bit of work to do on the organizational side. So we're going to figure this out together. Again, I'm enjoying
I want to quickly say, before we go to break, it's just congratulations to everyone who, this is your first tournament. Then congratulations. Thank you for being here. Very exciting.
Yeah, I can't.
And if it's only one of many, thank you for coming along.
Yes, I can't say that enough. Again, we had a huge turnout today, and a lot of these players, it's their first event. Maybe it's their first time playing startup. There's a lot of firsts here. And obviously, we're focusing on top tables from this point on because there is a top cut. We only have maybe 4 players left, but huge shout out to everyone who got involved. Again, also a huge shout out to all the organizers. Again, Jenny, Marbles, both of you from joining me. Obviously, I'm so happy about that. I was in a pretty bad organizational state getting to this point, but the fact that you both of you were excited to join on comms is an absolute lifesaver.
Absolutely.
On that note, too,
we're here for the dockiness.
I wouldn't say that. I think it's I'm very lucky here. Huge shout out also in terms of Lucky Crore, who's been helping out doing the TOing stuff. I know it's quite late on that side of the world, and of course to my partner who's been doing all the data entry and all the pairing stuff. Has been absolutely fantastic. On that note, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We're just going to check in on those data points and see what our top cut looks like. For those, again, we're not going to see on stream anymore. Thanks so much for jumping in. Crore says late. It's now the morning. Hey, we made it through. All right. We got another 12 hours. We'll be back in just a bit. Don't go anywhere.